hello there. So nice of you to join us again.
Oops. Sorry about that technical difficulties. My mic wasn't coming through, but as I was saying, good day everybody. But she was, yeah. I just heard you. You're doing very clear. That's again the chaos theory. You know how these things tend to go. But I don't think the music's drowning out my voice this time.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
All right. Okay, but good day everybody. Welcome to Jurassic Tours. I'm your host and guide, Jones Cat 79, aka Chris, and you already heard from our lovely lady Derica here. And we're back again with this, and I'm surprised we're keeping up with this, but we are. Next week might be a little tricky, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But once again, we are here to continue our tour. We already went through the nice vistas of Isla Nublar, where things kind of went a little awry, but it was a walk in the park, and we kind of go off. That could have worked out better, but it was a disaster. Thank God for Site B.
Site B?
Yes, yes. The factory floor, Isla Sorna, which is 83 miles, west of the area or so, part of the five island chain known as the Five Deaths, Los Cinco Muertos.
And funny enough, even though there are 5 islands, there's only 2 that like anyone even cares about, unless you're playing the Jurassic World Evolution game. But to the rest of the public, they may as well be don't know, don't care, fuck off.
Oh yeah, they all have very nice names too. But okay, so we got ourselves all situated over here. Thank you all for being patient. Hello, Cersei, and we're gonna go ahead and start talking about this. But before we get to the Lost World, it should be noted that Jurassic Park, we all knew, was a monumental undertaking, both to make, to write, to release, and it ended up being one of the biggest movies, not only of that summer, but possibly of that decade. What among the top biggest things? It was Jurassic Mania. Dinosaurs were cool again, and there were so many products that were greenlit in the aftermath of this. In fact, if you're a Power Rangers fan, you probably know that they were trying to develop Power Rangers way back in the early 90s, and that ended up stalling. And by the time they got around to doing it, the dinosaur one had just been made, and they said, we'll capitalize. And in that 93, we got the Jew Ranger adaptation being used as the basis for what we know as Power Rangers, where that one famously had the dinosaurs. Had they had their plan from before, we would have had Jetman, which was like a bird ranger thing, and that would have been a radically different timeline.
And also, it would capitalize for a lot of imaginative video games developers to use dinosaurs to kind of jettison their projects, like the iconic Tomb Raider game, which has the infamous Raptors and T-Rex boss in it, which probably looks almost exactly verbatim like you're fighting the T-Rex that you see in the first Jurassic Park movie. And along even Capcom deciding, hey, we made a killing with Resident Evil, why not we just do the same thing but with dinosaurs?
But yes, so dinosaurs were the big hit thing. In fact, uh, there's actually a case, famous B
Well,
movie.
actually, quick detour, like it's even like children's entertainment kind of capitalized the dinosaurs. Like this, me personally speaking, I grew up. Well, most of y'all modern dayers grew up on stuff like Dora the Explorer or Bluey. I grew up with Barney, the
so
dinosaur.
so did
So like
I.
I basically grew up on bouncing dinosaurs who just wanted to have friendship, and I hear they're having a pretty good comeback. The
And
designs looks so pretty nice.
and we're
To me,
back
it's like
is
you're not with dinosaurs. I think it's kind of a moot point. It's like what did you grow up on? Blue's Clues, Maisie. I grew up on a fucking dinosaur, man.
uh and then, like I said, we're back. Another child's film that came out around the time, which even has a Jurassic Park sight gag as part of the montage when they were doing a parade. You see a theater nearby, and on the front of the theater is Jurassic Park. You had stuff like Theodore Rex, that Whoopi Goldberg comedy with the Jim Henson dinosaurs that was kind of something. Point is, even well, here's a funny irony. Roger Corman is known as being the guy who rips off something after it came out, but he heard Jurassic Park was in the works that he bought another book about dinosaurs about in the modern day called Carnosaur, and managed to steamroll that into being made released a few months before Jurassic even came out. So he was an opportunist there, and coincidentally, the one of the scientist characters, the lady there, is actually the real life mother of Jurassic Park actor Laura Dern. So that's a fun little thing that happened in that one.
Oh, that's very trippy. But yeah, we that the first movie was a big hit that even Spielberg had a sense that a sequel was going to be made, both because he loved doing it and also, realistically speaking, the demand was going to be hot there, which is where we are right now.
Okay, so before we begin proper, let's go ahead and have our tour guide give our safety brief once again.
Okay, let's hear ya. Welcome back once again to Jurassic Tours, here on the mysterious Isla Sorna, aka Site B, aka the Lost World. As this island was never this site was never intended for touring, this site will not be as fenced off, and as such, many safety precautions must be followed. Keep yourselves grouped at all times. Do not wander off the beaten path, or you will be eaten. As for this is a live podcast stream, and we will not any have any second attempts, so any flubs mistakes, like just now ago, will and may recur and will be recorded. Keep your hands, arms, feet, and heads to yourself at all times. No flash photography of any kind. Keep yourselves hydrated, proper drinks, and please do not litter trash. Keep this island hygienic and antiseptic. We are all clear and ready to get this movable feast underway. Welcome to the lost world of Jurassic Park.
Wonderfully done. All right, so as we all know, if you read the book, a sequel is a little bit of an impossibility given the fact that the Costa Rican government flat out napalms the island, even though it's a moot point at that point because the raptors were already getting off the island and there was already instances of compies on the mainland before anything. So the idea was that this was going to spread anyway, but like unchecked power. But it was never set up as a sequel of what will they do next. So when Jurassic
Which
Park,
which is funny.
hmm?
Which is funny considering when the movie for Jurassic Park came, Steven kind of slyly had a pretty good sequel bait idea. The infamous Barbasol can that was actually a fake that housed tubes of cryogenetic data
And the
inside
embryos, yeah.
that the embryos that Dennis Nedry was going to hand off to Dobson of Biosyn and reap the rewards off it. Unfortunately, that uh, little excursion did not go as planned, and he ended up dying to Jonesy's favorite dinosaur in the movie, and the can was buried away, lost, and like with enough of a camera pan to assume that this will be a little sequel bait. And then of course Mike Crichton decided like, yeah, no, that's still silly. I just got I'll just make another island where they actually make the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so he made a the Jurassic Park book was so popular, movie was so popular that he based his book basically almost as a sequel to the movie, because Ian bites it at the end of his old book, and Gennaro lives. Yet over here in the Lost World book, we if for visual notice, I'm holding up my copy of the Michael Crichton novel. He brought back Malcolm, who makes an offhand wave hand remark about aren't you supposed to be dead, and he says the surgeons worked wonders, and they've written how Gennaro died off screen because of dysentery. Probably a play about how his character was in the on the crapper when the T Rex got him. But point is though, he started going off on the idea of what if there it's called the Lost World because in universe in the book there's this idea of the Lost World, theory in which there's some pockets of areas in the world where you know time is at a standstill, where prehistory is not prehistory for them; it is current history. So this one character named Thorn is trying to you know find this so-called lost world, which because he's been hearing all the rumors about all that stuff in Costa Rica and stuff, and even Ian is dismissing this stuff because they napalmed the last island, so what are the chances of another one being out there? And then you find out, yes, this was the factory floor and everything, and it is a
And this is why you should always double check to make sure something gets nuked. At that point, Napalm was like being merciful. They should have just nuked the whole island.
Well, it wouldn't have worked because there's a whole separate island that has these dinosaurs on them. But yeah, so I think he chose a Lost World not only as that, but also as an homage to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote that very famous book about a plateau of a mysterious prehistory land that was filled with ancient tribes, roaming dinosaurs, and other terrors. You know, your usual adventure novel stuff that would got a kick-ass show in the mid 2000s, which I think also rode off the Jurassic hype because the raptors suspiciously look like Jurassic Park raptors in that show.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there's even a few Sir Arthur Conan Doyle references. Like there's a Sir Roxton reference in here, which is a reference to a character from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So yeah, I think Crichton was just having a little fun there. And the book, though, again, like its predecessor before it, is a radically different beast. There are so many other detailed breakdowns on how and why, but it's also a lot more violent than its previous predecessor. I mean, one character describes watching his own cheek being eaten by a baby Tyrannosaurus as vengeance for breaking his leg earlier.
Ouch.
But
But I mean, a more violent follow up has to be like a given, considering the fact that you already introduced like this theme park, this whimsy notion of it, but even it had some dark tones. But if we're going to a place where, well, this was never intended to be a theme park, this is literally just a factory floor where we just make these dinosaurs, it's going to be a lot more dangerous and difficult to deal with. Like there's like in the book and in the movies, they flat out always keep bringing up the fact there's no fences. Like there's nothing that just gives the dinosaurs the illusion that, oh, they can't get out of this portion. They can't get out of their zones unless they're like 8 tons of meat and bone, like a T-Rex.
yes, so
So like they're basically free to come and go as they please. This is their land. It's not ours. We're basically just the visitors this time.
mm-hmm. So that was the idea of the book, and the movie followed up on that too. Let's go to this, you know, lost the time. Like the idea is that you do see all this facility stuff, but it's run down, it's overtaken. It's something that's become popular again in recent years with stuff like the Chernobyl site showing, overgrown leaves taking over the parks and stuff, or even video games and shows like The Last of Us showing how a society with a reduced, man population would result in nature just taking over. Or if you want to be smolchy, Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, where humanity left for millennia, came back, and the little plants will grow for it with the main character crying over it, saying, "You Earth hasn't forgotten us."
You just had to remind me of that dumb trilogy.
I know, but
People say the 1998 movie was like the worst thing that happened to Godzilla.
no, no, but I remember you could not stop laughing when he said that line. He said, "I know he's supposed to be sentimental, but I never heard anything so overly schmaltzy before." He said,
Like, not even fucking Evangelion got that schmaltzy, and that's a show that's like all about like ooh metaphors, symbology, and all that nonsense. They
but
probably look at this and go like, dude, are you fucking high?
yeah, but yeah. So the book does feature Malcolm returning, so it's natural that the movie would follow suit. Like Steven read the book and decided to go with that as sort of his plot point with David Kep, and but it's funny is they also used this sequel um, as an opportunity to use scenes they couldn't put in the last one thing for some reason or another. For example, as we'll get into detail, one of the most famous moments in the book is when a little girl is on vacation on the beach with her family and runs into across something peculiar, something that she draws, and is attacked. She survives fine, but the whole rest of that first half is discovering what the heck was on this thing. Was it some type of basilisk lizard? Was it a venomous lizard? And when she had a little doodle of it, so the mystery's finally cracked when one of the forensics people looks at it and says, "Oh, whose kid drew the dinosaur?" And the guy's all, "This isn't a dinosaur. This is a sketch fine." No, look at the tail, thick tail, the feet. That's a dinosaur. I think that's a tiny source of things. But my kid knows the name of it. They're more. The kids. They say as you get older, you forget. That she joked. But point is, that was the first shoe to drop in the book. That what if we're dealing with dinosaurs before you actually? That was before we even introduced to Grant or anybody. Point is, that's a big moment of the book. Not as big as a moment people have been wanting to for years because they're sociopaths, and which involves a crib, a nanny, and lightning revealing compies with blood tipped snouts digging into the crib.
Yikes.
That's from Jurassic Park, mind you. But
Yeah.
yeah, but Steven and Cap would take scenes that were mentioned in the first book that were never put in the movie, and they end up finding their way in a sequel, which, as you see as we go through this tour, is going to be a pretty reoccurring thing that happens where you'll go if you're a book fan nerd fan of the book, you'll be like, oh, you'll be doing the Leonardo DiCaprio point, like I did when the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer showed a particular scene.
You know, at this point, it almost feels like I feel like a fan of some kind would probably find a way to edit the order of certain scenes and say these are all the scenes like as they are portrayed in from the book. Like it would literally start with the Lost World, opening with the little girl with the compies. Then we would have later on with the moment where had the river encounter with the T Rex and Rebirth, so on and so forth. And yeah, it would be really really kind of crazy to see. Like here's the true adaptation of Jurassic Park as but as spliced together with all these scenes. That would actually kind of be interesting. I wonder if someone would actually be able to be up to that.
So, anyway, yeah, one thing we noted when we watched the documentary in the lead up to this is that Spielberg pointed out how this is pretty much his first honest to goodness, true blooded sequel. These people,
But Jesse America, what you made other Indiana Jones movies? Aren't they sequels?
well, as he put it, he
in a,
saw
t-
them
in a
more
technical term, they are, but actually to Spielberg, he says they're not sequels. They're just adventure serials. They're like you have the same characters, but they're in a different stories. They're in different like dangers, obstacles. It's basically like seeing like okay, what if this character dealt with this thing, and then what if this character dealt with that thing. To him, a true sequel would be like following the same concept, but have someone else dealing with it or uncovering new ramifications with it.
well,
Like, say, a returning character from the first movie come to realize that there's another island with dinosaurs, no fences, and apparently Hammond, John Hammond wants to send in people in to, like,
on the
be
ground, right?
documentarists on the ground. Rather than make it as a theme park, he wants to make it as a preservation. As he once put it, so you turn, in 4 years, you turn from capitalist to realist. That's incredible.
But yeah, so oops, all right, can you speak again, please? Okay,
So,
you're good. You're good. Okay, I got you.
yeah.
I was making sure. Okay, so but Steven said this is the first time because he really wanted to go back. I mean, he had just done some dramatic films like Schindler's List and the like before going back to the Lost World for his like detox, and he goes back into doing Amistad like the same year too. So he has this ebb and flow of it's the one for me, one for them mentality. Because he says like you do one that's for me, like he likes something personal like say Schindler's List, but then he does something like for the audience like Jurassic Park. So he's always been good at doing a one for me, one for them type thing with his stuff. He can't really peg what he's going to do next. So I mean, he goes from doing Lincoln and doing Ready Player One and The Fablemans and stuff like that. So he really is a tour de force. But he like I says, he wanted to do this one because like he says, in fact, we're gonna get into this in more detail in the next one. But he did promise a friend to the sequel to Jurassic Park. Uh, and then when the words of Lost World possibly getting moving was going on, he thought, you know what? I think I actually want to be able to do this one myself. So that friend ended up. He did say to this friend though that you will get rights to the third sequel. That friend being Joe Johnston of ILM fame, who ended up doing stuff like The Rocketeer and went on to do stuff like Captain America and The Wolfman.
So yes, it wasn't like some schmuck that was being landed on this, as most people egregiously like misinterpret. No, this guy did stuff. You you know his work, whether you don't think you do.
But yes, like he was one of the painters for Kenobi doing the power shield generator in the first Death Star. That matte painting floor was done by Joe Johnston by hand. In fact, he was, and we'll get to that more to him on detail when we talk about the sequel. The point is, Steven thought, you know what, I think I'll do this one. So him and David Kep and Crichton got together and they started pumping this thing along, and they were trying to find ways to like not only has this been 3 years since Jurassic Park, but at this point CG has now become a regular used tool, like if we always use CG, because you had Jurassic Park come out, and you had stuff like Jumanji, Volcano. You had all these sorts of movies coming out in those 3 years, taking advantage of this new technology. Some for better, some for worse. Mortal Kombat, but point is, point is, it's Jurassic Park made this happen. Now they have to play with it a little more to show that they're still the best in the town. And
Yeah,
as
I forgot who said in the documentary, but it's like, well, in the first three we showed her we could do dinosaurs, and then now everyone's like, okay, what? Now you know you can do dinosaurs, but what can you do with them?
that was dinosaur effects supervisor Michael Lantieri, the same guy who spent sleepless nights trying to make the guitar strings pluck for the Tyrannosaurus water droplets. But yes,
Mm.
so then here's the thing too. They evolved the effects because before Jurassic Park, they were still breaking new ground. It was very set plan. Okay, we're gonna do big dinosaurs for this kind of scenes and full motion dinosaurs for another. But they would go through the trouble of sometimes building full animatronics, getting ready to go for the scene, and they're looking at it, and Steven's realizing, I think I might be better to do this with the CG. Thankfully, none of that hardware go to waste because they would end up putting it in another scene where they get to show it in its glory. But they even realize, okay,
Well,
this is how
well,
it's gonna be.
technically one effect would actually be unused, but we'll get to that later when we talk about that little brief creature
Hmm. But
that
yes,
they didn't get its limelight.
but the point is though is that the game was already changing even on this one too. So it wasn't like they made, ooh, we're making bigger, badder effects. There's like they're starting to wield it differently than they did the previous one, and they decided to
In
go a
fact,
little, yeah.
sometimes they would challenge themselves even like in the field wherever the hunters are going to try to round up some dinosaurs. Steven decides to kind of it's almost a little bit of a one up from Alan Grant and the kids running from a flock of Gallimimuses. In this one, it's like, okay, well, let's follow a motorcycle and a bunch of vehicles chasing all these different dinos. You have your Packies, your uh uh the might as well just start naming it like Roland does. The Pompadours,
The
the long necks. It's
Parasaurolophus.
like to me that's all. It's just gonna be like, oh, that's just grown up ducky.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, there's this little personal thing between my sister, and sometimes I miss what she says. Like Dieter, I'll say it again. Now says, oh what? And then we'll just do the full quote of the one with the big red horn and the pompadour, Elvis. But yes, so but look, it's not like it's not going to be the same. In fact, Steven wanted to challenge himself, saying, "You want to give audiences what they didn't know they wanted. Like you don't want to give them just more of the same because that's the danger with sequels." And you could argue that The Lost World Jurassic Park is like the first full-blooded sequel to Jurassic series that tried to not just let's just do part one all over again. In fact,
Which at
unfortunately,
least two
you could argue
to
that it
certain
peaked.
ones to certain entries it made sense for them to want to do the first one again, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, needless to say, the other movies did kind of have like all the same build up, the same setups, the scenarios, and all that. And at a point, you have to wonder, like, okay, it's why does the Lost Road have to be the black sheep? There is just like, okay, we're doing this a little bit differently than we did.
Hmm.
But then again, you realize it's the same director, Steven Spielberg, who he already did the movie the way it was told in the first one. It's like, okay, well, I already did it like this, so I'm going to try to do it a little differently in this one.
Yeah, some people like to make the comparison to like something like Alien versus say Aliens or T2 versus T1, whereas T1's more of a techno thriller, noir, almost horror film, and T2 is more of a epic, blam slam in your face, action movie. So Jurassic Park is the awe and mystery and wonder and awe of man playing God, and in the Lost World, God has left the chat. You guys are pretty much in their world now, like you said.
It's so the in my opinion, the first Jurassic Park movie has like a little bit of whimsy and wonder. It's kind of got the same theme park vibes is like going to Disney World, where like the first thing you see when you go to see something that's like something that you saw in your childhood is there's real. It's like that's that big awe to it, but then there's also the slight tinge of like, oh, something went wrong, and now everything's gone kaput. Whereas in the Lost World, there you already know that these things are real, but this is like a huge, lush, dangerous jungle where it's like you don't know what you're expecting. There's no tour maps or anything to follow like Alan Grant had. This is like a, basically a pot of land that the dinosaurs have claimed as their own, and you have become their visitors. So tread lightly, tread carefully, and don't step into any like wearing nests, like say a T-Rex or raptors. But goodness knows all these characters in these movies keep failing that aspect.
So the story is pretty simple. 3 years after the incident at Jurassic Park, Engine is kind of facing a little bit of a financial thrashing.
Hey,
So,
Slack.
oh boy, we got John. Yeah. So Engine is in a little bit of trouble because Hammond has changed his mind and decided that the island, is going to be something that should be preserved, something that doesn't need people. But those are assets they made. They need that money. So Hammond, in order to protect this island, is going to try to get people to make a documentary about these animals alive and getting public opinion saying, leave the dinosaurs alone. He has a lot of faith in humanity, I say. but
But hey, but hey, to his credit, getting public opinion does lead sway to certain things, like
uh,
say, for
see,
example, a certain court
SeaWorld,
happened.
SeaWorld, for example, people started treating the orcas better after that Blackfish documentary came out. So maybe Hammond was onto something. But so he brings back Ian Malcolm. I always joke he probably tried to bring Alan Grant, which Alan Grant said a big old nah.
I always wonder, maybe I don't know why. Maybe she said no, but in some aspects, I feel like this whole thing definitely would be up Ellie Sadler's uh environment, but I guess they weren't really thinking Laura Dern could lead a movie, which is that's kind of bullshit.
But yeah, but Jeff was the biggest. He was like the third most favorite character of everyone, so of course it made sense to come to him. So Ian is being brought in to lead this small team, which includes his girlfriend Sarah Harding, a paleontologist who went there ahead of them. So this turns from a documentary mission to a rescue mission, and he goes and takes his team of gatherers to go and get her. But at the same time, Engine has launched their own hunting exploration to go ahead and take the animals off the island, which everybody keeps saying would be a big no-no if that happened. So, um, things come to a head when they manage to sabotage the hunter camp but that leads to them also coming across a injured baby tyrannosaur, leading that back to their encampment where stuff goes horribly awry, and in the end, the survivors and the hunters and the gatherers must make an alliance to make it to call for help before to make sure that any of them will survive this treacherous ordeal in this lost world. So that's the gist of the story.
Yeah, seems pretty concrete. Certainly hope there's nothing that detours weird surprise at the end there.
But
But yeah, with a story like this, you definitely should get into the cast, since I'm sure everyone's raring to hear us gush about dinosaurs. But we also want to gush about our favorite
in
characters.
fact,
Like,
you might notice
uh,
this.
who who doesn't want to gush about Jeff Goldblum?
Oh
Let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah, and also I'm going to say right now ahead of time, you might notice this is a bigger cast compared to the first one, because as we all know from Randy's rule of sequels, body count's much more bigger, more blood, more carnage, more bodies, carnage, candy. So there's a lot more people that are here for us to root for, but there's also a lot more people for us that we hope end up on the menu, and a lot of them do. Okay.
It's funny. Like, I- so originally, I know this we're jumping a little bit ahead, especially tour wise. But when I was thinking about Jurassic Park 3, I was thinking like, well, I think probably the weakest thing about it is that it's got the least amount of character deaths in it. But
It
then I actually started to count. I realized, oh wait a second, I think only the first movie has the least number of people that died to
yeah,
dinosaurs. Now that I
which
think about it.
at least to an Ian line that's confusing. He talks about how Engine covered up the deaths of 3 people on Nublar. So let's go ahead and count who we know for sure: Gennaro, Muldoon, and Mr. Arnold.
Arnold.
But then I guess Goldblum didn't, Ian didn't know about what happened to Dennis Nedry. 'Cause that's 4
Which to
people
be
died on
fair,
the island.
I think they kind of want a scapegoat to like put under the bus, so they assume he's either gone or he's dead. Nobody knows, nobody cares, but he didn't succeed in his mission, so whatever. But
Yeah, but like I
point
said,
is, he still caused that accident to happen.
but
So
yes,
they're not really speaking in a good light about that guy.
but yeah, the point is though, you're right. So I think of the Carnage Candy body count in the entirety of the Jurassic series, I think the Lost World has the highest body bag count.
Yeah, I think closely with Fallen Kingdom, given
All the
there's
mercs that get
certain
taken out in there.
well, not just the mercs, but also the buyers and all that. But oh, sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We have to focus on our tour here on Isosura. So
Okay, so we got
let's get
Goldblum.
ourselves started to talk about Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm, who's now sadly kind of become a laughingstock after he decided to break his non-disclosure agreement clause to talk about the dinosaurs, and everyone, of course, points to laughs and are thinking, "Oh, look at this guy! He gets hurt, but in like a freak accident, and he thinks dinosaurs like were the cause of it."
Well, heck yeah, because apparently, according to him, InGen, paid off people to like write, smear campaigns about him. And I mean, there's a scene where as a kid you're going like, come on, the dinosaurs. But as an adult, I'm like really invested in him talking about how he's arguing with Mr. Ludlow about how there aren't no versions of the truth. I never took a cent. Basically, tabloid reporting versus fake news, reality news, that kind of stuff. And you're going, Jesus, that sounds very pertinent to today, unfortunately, but it really does resonate. So, and people might notice
It,
that.
it quickly, I'll point out, Sally, the fate of Ian Malcolm here in this the start of this movie almost kind of mirrors a little bit with how Jeff Goldblum kind of went under the radar in my opinion at point. I don't know what it was with the 2000s. We were like making fun of him, we were making fun of Brandon Fraser, Nicolas Cage, even freaking Keanu Reeves, and but then all of a sudden all these guys come back in movies and suddenly they're like revered comeback superstars.
That, I mean, it's really great.
It was that one. It was like that one that 10-year period where like everyone was making fun of them, poking at them, and like you didn't just barely heard any snuff from them.
Hmm. But yeah. In fact, I always joke with Derica that during the scene when the guy in the subway train is kind of playing around with Ian, I said, "Oh, that's not." I made a joke. Oh, that's not in the script. I think that just happens to Jeff Goldblum on a regular basis. I said, but yeah. So now he was charming. He was funny. He was flirty in the first movie. But I guess nearly getting eaten by a T Rex will make you a little bit of an angry son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
that's a bit of an emo era. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's yeah.
Yes. So as we were saying,
Oh no, did I break your train of thought?
oh yeah, yes. So yeah, I was going though with the yeah. I'm pretty sure getting nearly eaten by a T Rex and seeing you prove right in a very wrong way will make you kind of a little bit of an. Well, he's rightfully angry because his name's been put through the mud by InGen, and here's the head of that company asking him for a favor for who knows what. So and plus of that, he's got something. I think nearly getting eaten by a T Rex and being in a hospital for a few years made him like rethink what he should matter in life, like staying with his family and getting in touch with his girlfriend that he keeps on leaving hanging all the time. It's a completely different situation,
I,
but yeah.
I just had a thought that just kind of occurred to me. Maybe the reason why Hammond contacted him instead of like Alan Grant or anything is like he assumed Ian still had this mentality that like the whole like you can't control nature. It's nature has to run its course. Like and just like it's best for humanity to just kind of step aside and like let nature handle its thing and life finds a way. And uh John Hammond probably sees this whole expedition as like, well, this is definitely what Ian Malcolm was talking about. But of course, Ian's kind of still got a little bit of tremors and shakes after nearly being filet mignon for a 65 million year old extinct beast brought back for a theme park.
Yeah, so But yeah, like I said, I heard some people say that they were like surprised at Ian's jaded, cynical approach, but he still has some funny quirks, and it's still Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum, but it's like in a different flavor. And like he says, it kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of funny comparison. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Brody in Jaws 2 after the events of Jaws 1, how he is practically different, and people mock him every now and then for the whole shark thing. His name is kind of in the mud for how he handled that situation. So in a weird way, yeah, it's kind of like him. I know Steven didn't direct Jaws 2, but it's kind of like the way he did Ian here was kind of like how Brody was kind of done in Jaws 2, if you think about it.
John says Lost World Chaos Island is a fun RTS game with, I think, the original
I
cast.
actually own that game. We'll get into that when we talk about all the merchandising. But yeah, so uh, you have any other thoughts on how Ian is now versus how he was in the previous entry?
Well, it's funny considering that, as it'll be a point that I bring up a lot when we go into this, but funny enough, the Lost World Jurassic Park was actually my very first foray into the whole Jurassic series. So Ian Malcolm was essentially my Alan Grant, whereas everyone else's had Alan Grant as being like the dinosaur guy. But Ian was the one that we were following. And he had a lot of sense to understand like we're dealing with dinosaurs in real life. And you just want to just like keep messing around and like keep like FAOing with them. But even regardless of that, he still gets into the action. He's still brought in because of his girlfriend, who just left him to hang, and it still is essentially being a factor to actually propel a plot. Like he is also insisting when the hunters show up to make sure that the dinosaurs don't get off the island. Like even though he's not directly involved, I mean he's not really a saboteur aficionado like Nick Van Owen is, but he is definitely 100% behind a plan to uh, get the hunters ousted. And
but
even later in the movie, where he becomes the significant force to handle Danny, which is still kind of murky here, but we'll figure it out when we get to it.
But yeah, but what I love about this is how Jeff Goldblum does play. Like, actually, if you want to get an Ian that's more closer to how he was in the first movie, just play the Lost World Jurassic Park PS1 game all the way through. Get the secret DNA cutscene. Get the very secret special hidden cutscene that even Jeff Goldblum gets surprised. Did I film that? If you remember.
Oh
Congratulations,
yeah,
you did it. You did it. Now do me a favor. Just turn the damn thing off.
funny
Go.
enough, that game he mostly fought and killed human hunters more than dinosaurs with dinosaurs.
Hmm. But yes. So, but like I said though, one thing I love is how Jeff plays him with a little bit of an air of of a survivor because PTSD. Because there's moments where he'll be like calm composure doing his smart alecky routine, and if something will happen, I'll make him just like freeze up. The best example being the my baby boy Vegeta scene, as Derica puts it, when he's talking, trying to calm down Kelly, his daughter, and he hears a roar in the distance, and that look on his face is like he knows exactly what that is. He probably hears that in his nightmares every now and then. In fact, in the novel, Ian does get injured again, and he has to be put through morphing again, and he has hallucinations and nightmares about the T Rex as part of the thing too. So,
Huh? Nightmares about dinosaurs. That sounds like a thing that's borrowed into another movie. Hmm.
but yeah, so yeah, but I like how he does him, and he still gets smashed a few good quips here and there, but um, that 5 o'clock shadow, man. I say sometimes I make a joke that it kind of makes him resemble Hugh Laurie's house at times.
Oh yeah, he kind of does, doesn't he? And and I just say it. Is that does that make him a little bit more attractive, or should we still like consider the meme worthy uh Ian Malcolm more handsome?
I don't know. Both of them remind me of my dad at points in his life, so there's that.
Oh God.
Yeah, if you yeah. Anyway, so he like I said though, he still gets really great one-liners that are always trailer lines. For example, the one everyone knows is when they're about to get the baby transfers off the trailer, and you hear a big slam, and he just says with deadpan seriousness, "Mommy's very angry."
Uh, but
But
I think we
also,
got.
he
cover this.
also
Oh,
he because when you think about it, uh, they kind of up the ante because Jeff Goldblum only interacted with one dinosaur through the entirety of the thing. Because yeah, he got to see the others, but the one he only had a face-to-face encounter with was the T Rex. But in this one, we get to
well,
see.
no, well, technically he saw the Triceratops.
Yeah, he was there for it. But I'm saying though is like to go mano a mano. He totally fell asleep or was out of the action for the Raptor stuff. So here he gets to
Oh,
get
no,
made up.
oh wait, no, he. Okay, so you counted the T-Rex. He also saw the Triceratops. Technically, he also saw the baby raptor and
Yes,
saw the
I'm
Brachiosaurus.
saying yeah. Like I'm saying, he had minimal dinosaur interaction compared to the rest of the cast. But here, he gets to get made up for lost time by having a full-on scene with a raptor, and it's so fun watching the behind-the-scenes where Steven's trying to convince him how to like hold a door that's going to be hit by your favorite linebacker as a raptor going. but
He keeps bonking stuff at the door over and over.
but like, he's a good sport about it too. So um, but the reason he goes on
Oh,
this
oh, wait, oh yeah, I said I love how whenever Steven has, because Steven's talented director. His job is to direct and tell them essentially a story for them to act through. So as whenever Steven usually often directs and tells them what they're going to be experiencing, I always see Jeff Goldblum kind of like playing it out, like mimicking movements in his head. It's like, okay, so I'm imagining myself doing this, grabbing a rope and holding off the door here, and getting surprised by the director, jumping into the car.
even
Okay, yeah, I got.
even funnier, he'll ask some of the production crew, the CG crew, "Hey, can you be the raptor so I have my eye line so I know my motivation?" So some guy's gonna be going all rah in front of him so he knows exactly how to look. And it, again, people really underestimate the importance of a good eye line because if you mess that up, it doesn't matter how good the CG effect looks. It's just nothing. I mean, one scene that does bug me eye line wise, Mortal Kombat One, is the scene where Shang is talking to Reptile, and it kind of looks like he's not noticing Reptile doing stuff in front of him at times.
To be fair, Shang Tsung doesn't give a fuck.
Yes, but yes, yeah, Shizoth deserved better, but yeah. Um, anyway, so the point is though, like you got to make sure it looks, and when you see them in like this is why movies like Transformers and The Lost World and everything work because the people look in a way that you believe that they're actually seeing whatever's put in front of them being there. In fact, the scene where that falls apart again in Transformers is the scene where Bumblebee lubricates the agent, and the way they bonk, he puts his hand on the opposite end where the lid hit him, so that kind of takes you out of it for a moment. But
I didn't realize that. It's funny. I keep seeing the behind the scenes of that in Facebook Reels, like as I scroll through. It's like pop up. It's like, oh look, there's that scene again from Transformers.
but yeah,
Great.
but like I said though, Jurassic Park, you really got the way they did it was they would get like these big old poles with a drawn on T Rex head and say, okay, he's up here this high, look up that high, that kind of thing.
Run away! It's the cardboard cutout. T-Rex about to jump us down.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's great, and I know people say they prefer Ian how he was in the previous one. In fact, all his later appearances later would try to more emulate his performance from the first one. But again, this was the tape I watched to death most of the time. I have such a fondness for the Lost World version of Ian. In fact, when they released a special Jurassic Park Legacy collection for Mattel thing recently, about a few years back, they had the Mercedes M Class, Benz Gatherer vehicle with the Goldblum from the Lost World in it, and a recolored T Rex to look like the Buck, which it's an okay set. That if I were to buy it, I would only buy it for the car and Ian.
Yeah, needless to say, Jeff Goldblum is our treasured moment in this movie, along with many other things. But don't ever put down the actor. Seriously, like 2000 was gone and done. Like he's back. He's here. He's not going away.
So Julianne Moore, she is a prestige actress, mind you. So to have her be in this movie is like, well, like Laura Dern was, a prestige actress, and she ends up getting to work with Steven Spielberg on an actioner. So here we got Julianne Moore doing the same thing, who earlier had done Clarice Starling in the Ridley Scott movie Hannibal, which I feel bad for her because she had to follow up such a momentous performance from Jodie Foster, and to the point where you'd argue that the Starling in Hannibal's a radically different human being altogether because Juliana tackles her in a different way. But I like Julianne. Funny enough, in this movie, she also starred in the same time as with in The Big Lebowski with Jeff Bridges, and she plays a radically different character. Where I'm all like, oh yeah, that is Sarah, but she's so different. And coincidentally, Peter Stormare, Dita Stark, was also in The Big Lebowski. So I laugh when I say, oh look, it's a little bit of a Lost World reunion right there. But she plays Sarah Harding, a paleontologist who's really sick of just making up theories about these bones, and there's now a chance to see the island, to see them in their natural habitat, and really observe. Because she says she's before being a paleontologist, she also observed predators like hyenas and jackal, all that kind of stuff. She's very good at observing, but she really jumped at the chance, as Hammond put it when he says, "You sent her over here. Sent is hardly the word. She could hardly be restrained."
And it's kind of funny to jump, but she does kind of break her own rules even after she makes said rules. Like later on, before they're doing their like stop the hunters and all that, she's giving rules to make sure nothing you do should ever leave any samples or imprints. Like make sure you bag all your foods. Do not like touch any animals. Do not mess with anything. Except, wait a minute, Sarah. Weren't you kind of getting a little bit too close, as Ian Malcolm puts it, to a certain baby Stegosaurus? And
Yeah,
oh, you decided to get so close and personal, you decided to touch it like it's a freaking petting zoo.
like even Ian, he says she cannot touch it. She's not supposed to touch. Look at her. Look at her. She sees anything she has to. And he's all like, just Ian Malcolm's gesture is so funny in that. I love Jeff. I wonder how much of that was improv. But yeah. So, but like I said though, she has an iconic look. That whole, I'm pretty sure, if if you can't pull off a cosplay of Laura Dern's Ellie, you would probably want to cosplay that green with the red striped shirt look that Sarah's got going on, the survival look.
Just make just make sure you have her lucky pack.
Oh yeah, the lucky pack with holes, which that's going to become a recurring thing in this series, believe it or not. But yeah, so what's funny is that on one hand she's very supportive of Ian coming to come see her, but at the same time she's thinking this is important, this has to be done, even though everyone's telling her this is a bad idea to stay on this island. And
I
she,
mean, you can't blame her because she definitely feels like someone has to at least like document these things. Like it's certainly like okay, it in many ways she is definitely respecting that Ian's right that these dinosaurs shouldn't be taken off this island, and so a best way to do it is like show the world like look, these dinosaurs are doing a okay by themselves. They're living, they're thriving, their own. They're able to live past the lysine deficiency that the park engineers put into them by just thriving off the plants and lysine naturally on the island, and the predators eat the lysine filled dinosaurs. So like here they're doing their thing, they're fine, they're okay, so we could just leave them be and we don't have to do anything about it.
yeah, in fact,
And
you could argue that that's a proof of Ian's life found a way shtick because, you know, the scientists overlooked that these plants have these. In fact, like remember what Ellie said, they pick plants because they look good, so sometimes they have no idea what's what. So, again, a man's arrogance overlooked stuff, and life found a way. So that's why these guys are still kicking around. And like I said, she's pretty good on anatomy because she's able to help doctor what needs to be fixed on the baby T Rex's broken leg. And she also gets to have one, you know, pants darkening, bite your fingernails moment in which, when the trailer's turned over, she falls through the glass and is starting to slowly crack as her weight shifts, and you're just going like, "Oh dear God, that is a nightmare right there."
I'm trying to remember my first time seeing that. I thought that was like the most scariest thing to happen. It's like, oh, she's safe, but then I see a glass break, and then my little brain just started to click the cogs and realize if that breaks, she falls. Oh
Uh,
my god.
Now imagine seeing that in XD IMAX.
If it ever decided to let that film get a re-release chance, like they really released the first movie dozens of times, but I get the second one get a re-release.
Yeah,
When's
yeah.
when's the next when's the next anniversary? Like 2 years time? I guess it kind of might get a little bit overshadowed by a certain big franchise's golden 50, but it should still get a chance. God damn it!
Universal, make it happen. But yeah, so yeah, but like I says, she plays playful and sure, but she also does seriousness. Like when she's talking about there's a when she's having a back and forth with another paleontologist about how the T Rexes could still be a problem for them, and the guy with so much certainty, which Derek keeps saying, "You're really bad at your job, man." Burke says, "Oh no, once we get out of their territory, they should leave us alone." She's like, "Don't you bet on they can sniff us out from a mile away, all that kind of stuff." So they have nice back and forth about things, and hell, she even seems to get like Roland's attention in a more respectful manner. And in fact, to the point when one of their members goes missing, he tells Sarah, "Hey, don't nobody tell the little girl about our missing guy." So Sarah has a bit of a maternal presence, and she does have some funny zingers. Like one of the best moments is when when Vince Vaughn and her are doing an operation. She realizes something needs to be done that can break away. So she asks for his gum and tells him to spit, and he just flat out spits in her hand, and she just smears it all over his vest.
No, you idiot! Your gum.
Yeah, and again, she actually gets a lot of tense moments. Now that I think about it, she got the window scene. She's got the scene with the buck right over her backside while they're in a tent. In fact, she has one of my other favorite visuals from this movie where she's about to turn off the light and you just see that big old Rex head shadow through the tent. That is such a moment.
And she gets cornered by the raptors,
No, not she got
especially on the
tackled.
rooftop.
She got tackled by a raptor like a linebacker. Like,
She got tackled, and then she got cornered like up to the rooftops, and then uh hmm, that's funny. This one's kind of smudged. Well, I'm sure it's not too important.
oh yeah. And then, yeah. The point is though, like she does play action, but she still gets to be very feminine, and she's a lot more older than our usual Jurassic protagonist in terms of look. I'm not sure how old she was, look, but she does feel like an adult lady doing all this stuff in the same vein as Laura Dern. So I
Yeah,
think,
I, yeah, I definitely feel like she would be a lot more level-headed to handle. Okay, I'm just gonna say this right now. To I feel like they should have brought her back for Dominion.
yes, I mean, she should have come back in
Like
any other world sequels.
at the very least Dominion, because at least we would have seen that she and Ian Malcolm did get together. I don't know what's behind the scenes of like in universe. What happens to them? Are they
Sarah,
a thing? Do they have a fallout?
Sarah gets a mention in some of the other materials, but yeah, like I said though, she is one of the more underrated Jurassic World female protagonists, and I just plus also you gotta love a good redhead, huh? In fact, this series will have another great redhead coming down the line.
Oh yeah, the big recurring one,
Yeah.
named
Anyway,
funny enough by the little Stegosaurus that I don't know. Did Julian actually name the Stego, or
she said the crew called
did the
it
whole cat?
Claire, and she wanted to she had fun in playing off of it. Oh, and that's another great scene with Sarah is just her. Oh, that's another close call when she pisses off the Stegos by accident, and the Thagomizer just inches from her backside.
It was actually very close to her shin. She could have almost had this, like, oh hey Ian, now we have matching broken legs here.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's go on to our another cast member, Vince Vaughn, hot off of hits like Swingers and Psycho and the like. Well, actually, did Psycho after The Lost World. Probably not a good career choice, but but I
Well,
love.
most people mostly remember him for doing the Dodgeball movie
Oh
later on.
God, he's so
But
great in that. He's such a great comedian. He's also a great serious actor. I love him in Hacksaw Ridge. He's one of the best things in that movie with Andrew Garfield.
is he in that movie?
Yeah,
Oh my god,
he's
I have to actually see that.
yeah. Vince Vaughn plays the hard ass general in that thing, and he is amazing. When I saw him, I thought I hadn't seen him in anything in years since Fred Claus. So when I actually saw him in this, I went, "Oh shit, it's Vince Vaughn."
I remember the camera making the whirly noises when out of film.
Hmm.
Yeah, those darn icons, they'll like get you nearly killed by a dinosaur if you're not careful.
Yeah. So Vince Vaughn plays Nick Van Owen, who's kind of like the. He's a combination of the Thorn character with Doctor Paleontologist. Pardon me. Levine, Richard Levine. He's like Richard Levine. So, but yeah, point is though is that Hammond brought him in as a backup plan in case he couldn't get done. But if anything, he says he's done photography and combat, documentary stuff like that, and he has a bit of a funny charm to him because there's a part when he mentions how he joined Greenpeace for the women, 90% female
Hmm,
Greenpeace, noble.
charming.
Yeah. So the thing is, there's some people who've come to actually hate the Nick Van Owen character, given that he kind of causes problems more than solves. But that's just the nature of chaos theory, right there.
Well, okay, let's actually really count the one defining problem he causes. Like, sure, okay, he takes the bullets out of Roland's gun to cause the buck to get tranquilized
And brings it
and
back to the
his temper,
later.
but like the other thing he does is that he sabotages engine for having all those captured dinosaurs, which that's I don't think anyone's ever gonna argue like that's a bad thing. It's like, no, that's a good. That's they could have been like at they could have like carted them out the next like that very morning. You don't know. Like they had helicopters coming in for goodness sake.
And well, like I said, it did destroy the communications equipment, which required them to go to the village. But he is the one who called for
Which
help.
and let's also remember he probably did that sabotage with the intent to still call in for them to get out. He probably just assumed that like oh let it stew over their work.
But
We'll get someone to cover them
he did
coming
bring the
out.
baby to Sarah, which brought the whole thing back to the camp.
Well, again, their whole mission was to help preserve and help these dinosaurs, and a baby not being able to mend and help its leg. That's like it's not like that T Rex is gonna find a trained veterinarian Dilophosaurus like anytime soon.
But yeah, so I mean, I like Nick. I love him because he has some funny zingers. He's also one of the fastest characters you can play as in the RTS game Chaos Effect. So,
John says he's a spy, which is he though? I mean, he is a
cause
saboteur, but
yeah, cause
he's not really like a
Roland
super spy.
Roland kind of recognizes him from doing past incidents in the past. You're that first bastard, aren't you? And but yeah, um, but yeah, I do like him because I like the way he delivers certain lines. Like he says, "We need a backup plan anyway." What's a backup plan? Me. And he gets all his saboteur stuff. And
I think I think the funny thing is that I okay, so saw the movie the first time and saw the character, and then later on I would see Dodgeball, and I think I had probably had the weirdest sensation like, do I know this guy from somewhere? I feel like I'd seen this guy from somewhere. And then I probably had like the biggest oh my god shock face that I put together. Oh my god, Vince Vaughn is in a Jurassic Park movie all this time?
I was the same way watching Mission Impossible, realizing that Isai Morales was the brother from La Bamba that says Richie when he played Gabriel. And I was like, where have I seen this guy? And I looked at him, and went, his early filmography, and I looked at the picture and went, oh crap, it's that guy. But
But yeah, it's so funny to yeah, you grow up on something and then you come back realizing there's something you didn't realize before.
yeah, like
Which is probably why I feel like I have more of attachment to this movie than I do with the first one. Like, sure, I saw it before I saw the third one, but like I didn't like I was already kind of like had that whimsy and majesty of seeing the dinosaurs before the first one. So
and
like when that whole they're doing like the ooh ah look at the brachiosaurus, so it's like yeah, it's neat, but like I've seen Stegosaurus look just as good, so
and
I don't know.
then and then rounding out our gathering crew, we now have hapless technician Eddie Carr, a guy who doesn't even like to be on the field, but kind of has to due to the rushing of necessity. He hasn't even been able to field test his equipment. Played lovely by Richard Schiff of West Wing fame. I also saw him in Doctor Dolittle that year, and I go, "Hey, look, it's Eddie." And he recently appeared in stuff such as Man of Steel as Emil Hamilton. He didn't make it out of that one either. But
Well, to be fair, at least his Emil Hamilton didn't turn out to be a rat fink bastard like in the animated series.
oh yeah, Future Odin. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Richard Schiff is so amazing. In fact, I remember when I first saw him. We saw him earlier last year when we did the anniversary viewing of Speed. He was that poor train technician that Dennis Hopper caps. Didn't even get a word in.
Oh, damn. See, and people think that freaking Sean Bean has the record for most on-screen deaths. In this place, say, dude, hold my beer. This guy here, like, pretty much has that verbatim.
At least Doctor Doolittle he lives. But oh my god! But I loved him in as Eddie because he has this funny reoccurring gag where Ian will always be complaining about something wrong with the tech, and he'll always be trying to tell him like, "Hey, just work with it." Like I think one of your I heard Derica actually audibly laugh out loud when he says like, "Is there any reason why the radio and the trailer shouldn't work? If you feel intimidated, just go into the thing and hit switch to on." Like he being super sassy about it,
So like he literally outsasses Ian Malcolm. That's daring.
and he has a line I keep.
Maybe that's why the Rexes killed him. He's basically like, there's only one room on this island for a sassy beast, and that's Jeff motherfucking Goldblum.
But yeah, but he has one of my favorite lines in which Ian's beating the crap out of the phone trying to get it to work. He says, "Violence and technology are not good bedfellows." But yeah, so he is the guy who built the everything, and he also has the silver bullet that never gets fired in the trank filled with the self seek conch
John,
shell.
John, no, too soon, John, too soon.
Yeah, but yeah, so he got. Whoa, let's see them try to head trauma Reed Richards. Good luck with that. I'm sure if you try to hit him with a mallet to the head, it'll just make his face go boing. I'll probably be stretched out for a second before it snaps back into place. But
Exactly.
yeah, unless you're Wanda Maximoff, then you'll just take him, just shred him to spaghetti. uh, so anyway, going back to Eddie. Crap, what was my point? Oh yeah, it had to do with him and building the gear and everything like that. He also built the high hide, where Ian again is sarcastic about the thing when he mentions how he says this keeps you out of safety, and actually you just put it at a very convenient biting height, which there's the deleted scene where the high hide does get menaced by the Tyrannosaurus on the way over there, but that this is all from the book. And in the book, there's two characters. There's Thorn, who is the designer for all the equipment that hasn't been field tested, and you have his assistant Eddie Carr, who is the strongest guy on his team. And Eddie didn't want to be there either. And just like his movie counterpart, he unfortunately meets his end, trying to help someone not fall over something. In this case, though, he gets hauled off to high by a bunch of raptors, where the crew gets to watch him get. There's a vivid description of his rib cage being played about like two dogs playing for a bone. He got it pretty bad in the book. He does have the honor of one of the most memorable on-screen deaths in the trilogy, where people say, "Now that was uncalled for." We won't get another death like that till Jurassic World, where people start actually debating whether someone had it coming. But we have to remind people these are animals. Animals don't have a morality compass to decide. Oh, you're good. I'm just gonna go ahead and give you a tap on the head to knock you out. No, if they think you're food, regardless if you were Mother Teresa or Adolf Hitler. They're gonna do what animals do.
Which is see how what all the sounds of your bones crushing uh is either between a rock or a grass.
Yeah, but yeah, like
But to discuss that death, it is kind of well. I don't know if like I was like traumatized or scared seeing that death, or maybe I was just indifferent because like I didn't see fair. Eddie, like he wasn't that endearing or charming, I feel, but like in later viewings, he's a nice guy enough. But seeing him getting like taken away and beat chopped into two bits as a kid, to see that, it was kind of harrowing, but it definitely solidified showing how dangerous these T Rexes are. These are basically just monsters, but that just act like animals. But like they're animals that can literally like in one fell swoop, they could just tear you limb from limb by just biting you down, or they could just step on you. But kudos to them for actually pulling off making it gruesome without actually showing all the detail of it. That's kind of a thing that's kind of hard to do nowadays, is to make a gruesome death actually look gruesome without too much detail, to the point where it looks where the censors go like, yeah, no, either you cut this out or we're gonna have to mark this as an R rating.
However, if you do go frame by frame after the wishbone moment, if you pause it before the T Rex takes its foot off the car to make it go in, you can see a little bit of a red trickle coming from like the rain making a red trickle from the pant leg area that the doe has in her mouth.
Which I only just today, before we started recording, as I decided to just rewatch the movie, realized that oh, the doe doesn't eat hers. And apparently, I guess maybe it's just saving it for the baby later. But the buck is like, nah, nah, girl, I'm eating my bit.
But yeah, and like I said though, Eddie does get the most heroic send off at least because he's at least going out trying to save his friends. He's struggling to get his Mercedes to tie around the falling trailer, and in fact the music and everything tricks you to thinking, holy crap, he actually might have a shot at this. But we'll get into this in more detail when we get to the T Rexes. But there's a shot. Derek knows exactly what shot I'm talking about because every time it pops up in the damn documentary, I just keep doing the Leo point to it.
The Rex is emerging from the mist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, just
Which it just before we hit record, he actually showed me this Big Bag Toy Store offering, which has the T Rexes kind of posed in that very same way. Yeah, it's nice. As long as you don't look at the price point of it. $2,000. Yeah, no thank you.
yeah, but yeah. So he does get memorable for that, and it's no other death in the series has come close to that, to be honest. And there's a lot of like guys who get theirs in very satisfying way, but not to the level of like some people actually call it to the point of it being mean spirited. And I'm going, eh, I don't know. I got nothing on that.
Well, I honestly feel like it's kind of the last where we see like the good guys actually be in the same danger zone as like any antagonistic or jerk off characters getting eaten. Which I hope they kind of beat it when Rebirth comes out. I hope there's actually a character that's like,
That
oh, we like them and all that, but then they get bit.
yeah.
Like if 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 like Gareth Edwards is correct in saying this is gonna be a throwback to classic Jurassic, for God's sakes, man, have some balls. Kill off a character that we care and like.
Mm-hmm. But and another thing too, though, we know he has no qualms about that. Look what happened to Mister Wrecking Bad himself in G14.
Or hell, the pretty much the entire cast of Rogue One.
Yes. So yeah. But I mean, it's sad. It's kind of. I used to have. There was a toy line they made during the Jurassic Park Lost World hype. They had one called Chaos Effect, and I had this Eddie car in a orange jumpsuit. It looks like Lethal Company. That comes with a crane arm. It's supposed to be like a capture for a dinosaur. It was like a little ATV looking uh, crate forklift, and it was supposed to be able to capture dinosaurs. And I had that guy for the longest time. But yeah, it was a Chaos Effect Eddie, and I didn't draw the two that it's supposed to be the Eddie from the movie. But in fact, even the RTS makes a funny joke where when you click on the characters, they'll say random things, and when you click on Eddie, sometimes they'll say, "Didn't I die? In the movie, I died, right?" He'll say that.
Really now.
It's pretty funny because it's like you got these little pixels that represent Ian Malcolm, Sarah Harding, Nick, all those guys, and he yeah, Eddie has a funny joke where he says, "Didn't I die? I think in the movie I died." He said. Funny enough, there's this character in there that looks exactly like Garth from Wayne's World, called the Research Assistant, and you could, unlike the other characters where you can only spawn one on the field at a time, you could spawn dozens of these research guys, and they all keep saying the same thing: "Hello there, hello there," and then you click on to go somewhere, you go, "Okie dokie," and they have the most blood curdling scream whenever they get killed, because whenever a character dies, they get replaced by a cross, medical cross spinning, and usually they'll come with a quote like, "Ian's out, Sarah's wounded, Eddie's down," but these guys just do a big old ah. And if you send them after the dinosaurs, you tend to hear that a lot.
Okay, well, technically we do have one more. We have a little bit of a stowaway on this little rescue crew. Apparently, Kelly Malcolm.
Vanessa Lee
Yep.
Chester.
What? one of Ian's kids that he mentioned in the first movie. It's one of the three apparently. I guess the other two graduated or are doing their own thing.
Well, I think he has many kids from a different marriage because he mentions how he's always on the lookout for ex Mrs. Malcolm.
But yeah, I remember a lot of audiences were kind of confused and put off seeing a dark skin color girl being related to white Caucasian Ian Malcolm. And I just go like, you do know there's families that exist like that, either by adoption or literally just naturally. Like, you can still have a pairing and they'll still have a black kid or a white kid.
Yeah,
It happens.
and there's even a joke about it in the movie where Nick asks Eddie, "Do you think you see a family resemblance?" And Eddie does this little like, "Yeah, little."
I joke this like, I kind of see in the eyes.
Yeah, and the thing is that Kelly Malcolm is his enthusiastic, powerful daughter that does gymnastics. She's funny. She's very eager to be with him. That when he says he has to go, she's like bothered that she has to be left behind. She keeps telling him like, "You can't just abandon me at the nearest convenience." And you're going like, "There's some deep-seated issues probably from the other parental unit that she's." Even Ian says, "Did your mother teach you to say that?" Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she decides to take Ian's very badly timed worded advice. Like, you want some advice? Don't listen to me.
Because he said
So in
something.
her mind, it's just like, well, he told me to stay behind, and he told me not to do what he told me. Therefore, the solution is I should stay away.
But yeah, like he did say something hurtful in that minute. That's why he said, "Don't listen to me," because he said, "I'm not the one that split your hair and dumped for Paris, so don't take it out on me." Like, you're like, "Ouch." But but like he says though, once she's on the island and he knows she's on it, he gets
It's like, oh
super
God,
protective.
no, get off the island, get off the island, get off the island, please, please.
And God,
But to Kelly's credit, she's got some like good awareness to get out before the danger happens. Like when the baby T-Rex is brought in, she's realizing, oh my God, no, this is bad. This is really really bad. And I suppose some audiences could kind of joke like, oh, it's her black girl senses tingling. It's like, no, danger here. No, I'm getting the hell out while I still can.
because you see the baby's making these noises that are like, she's like, other animals will notice things here, so she's like, "Get me out of here." But in fact, she also like, there's a great line with her and Sarah where she does kind of have like a sort of a you know little sister vibe with Sarah that you see them mostly hanging out most of the time to the point where they're both together in the same tent when the buck shows up. And
Heck, even when Ian was planning to leave her behind, she asked, like, why are you dumping me off with this troglodyte that doesn't have Genesis? Why don't you just like drop me off with Sarah like before? And Ian has to dismissively go like, well, she's out of town actually.
but yeah, so like I said though, Kelly, well, people she doesn't just stand there to get around in danger. She does do stuff. In fact, she has a moment that's become rather infamous within the Jurassic Park community, in which there's a point where Ian's cornered by a raptor, and she, using her gymnast skills, she kicks the raptor out the door. But I think what makes it funny is not that she kills it with gymnastics, but also the fact that you cut
The
from
raptor literally just stops and turns around to respond to
you.
being called out by a little girl. She's like, yes.
And another thing too is the fact that, well, God bless you, Steven. You tried to make this work with Ariana Richards, where she would fall down and her face would be replaced with over a stunt woman, but the lighting and the angling for the stunt person doing the twirling is so obvious. It does kind of take you out of it for a split second.
It does?
Well,
I just kind of just assumed it was just kind of like her doing it.
yeah, but it works. But like I said, though, but like I said, she does get that moment, and she also gets to overhear some of the more dangerous stuff, like when they mention how like velociraptors are a danger, and we already know raptors are a danger, but the hunters and Kelly need to hear about why these things are scary. Oh, fun fact: when Julianne Moore and Vanessa Lee Chester are in the tent with the Rex, um, the Rexes, as we get to when we talk about them, they're so big. You don't move them to the set. No. You move the sets to them. So for that part, they had to have them stand on on a cutout tent that was up to like chest length, and they would have to pretend to lie on it, and the T Rex would
Yeah,
go.
I remember that confused me at first when you told me. It's like, okay, so why don't they just raise the set up and just still have them lying? But you were kind of still trying to you were attempting, but you were failing to kind of convey it's like, dude, no, this thing is dangerous. There's no way you're gonna have an 8-ton piece of head hovering over like actual bodies of people without the risk of like spring or nut like going loose and that thing collapsing down on them.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I after watching that kind of clicked on me. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that would be that would be yeah, that's
But
yes, standing would be an actual option.
yeah, and what's nice is that you can't really tell that that's a false body behind them. You know, with the sleeping bags, while the T Rex is like poking right over them, and it kind of looks like I don't know if that's just she's just really good at crying, or if she was really scared of that thing that came through in real. But she translates that really well when the T Rex is like right over and you cut to Kelly and she's got like tears streaming down her face, trying not to make a sound to piss it off.
That I think that's more tense I feel than when I eventually saw the moment where Alan and Lex are right in front of that T Rex
Mm-hmm.
in the rain in the first one.
But yeah. So
Because you're literally at your most weakest moment. You're laying down, you can't really move or flinch or anything, and you have to hope and pray that well, to at least to their credit, like they're at an angle where the T Rex can't really see them,
mm-hmm.
but it's still got the olfactory, which Sarah has kindly keeps pointing out. Like dinosaurs can literally pick up scents anywhere. It just tells Nick to not light a cigarette
Mm-hmm.
nearby.
So, but yeah, like I said, though, I really like Kelly. Like, she's looked very cute with that red and blue getup, and you know, she is a really good. You know, she's a combination character in the book because in the book there's two character kids that got stowed away on the island. Uh,
Yeah, there is a Kelly, but then there's also another
Arby,
one named
Ar-
Arby.
Arby, yeah, Arby was the computer nerd and black. They point out in the book that he's black. And Kelly says she even said, unlike Kelly, who's white, Arby's black. As it says in the book, so they kind of just decided to Brundle flight him.
I did point out how I did point out how serendipitous it probably was that they found an actress that could be this new Kelly like amalgamation, but it turns out that this actress would be black. They just kind of realized like, huh, we really did kind of slam two characters together, didn't we?
But it worked out. So they have a great moment in the book where she's behind Sarah on a motorcycle trying to shoot a trank gun at a raptor that has a important key stuck to the pink part of its jaw. Mm-hmm.
God damn it! Now I have to actually get the book to read. This actually sounds really fucking awesome.
By the way, Lewis Dodson is the villain of the book, and boy, does he get his. Probably more satisfying than how he eventually went out in the movies, but yeah. Anyway, so
Speaking of the greedy bunch of bastards, I guess we could talk about the hunters portions of this movie.
you just made me think of a Brady Bunch parody. This is the story of a man named Ludlow and his hunters that he brought onto this land. The greedy bunch. Yeah, but
Uh,
uh, there's
so
Peter Ludlow, played by Arliss Howard, the nephew of John Hammond, and he was that guy in Full Metal Jacket that had to show his war face to Hart.
I still haven't seen Full Metal Jacket yet.
But funny, he's if I had a nickel for every time a Full Metal Jacket actor has appeared in a Jurassic entry, I'd have two nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
But yeah, so Ludlow is kind of like an anti-Hammond. So he, in many ways, he's kind of more of like the book version of John Hammond, except his charisma level is kind of a little bit down. I feel.
Even Ian jokes it, where he's trying to do a Hammond style speech, and he says, "Well, if you're trying to come off like Hammond, it just comes off as a hustle." But hey, they say talent skips a generation, so I'm sure your kids will be pretty sharp as tacks. And he says something very arrogant. Hammond's grasp exceeded his own, mine will not. Like Lolo is so frou frou, so like up his own ass at times. Like hell, there's a scene where Ian like threatens him about how he won't forget the story, and he says, "Careful, this suit costs more than your entire education." You're like,
But yeah, Ludlow is essentially sick and tired of how there are companies like literally going in a downward spiral after the Jurassic Park incident, where they're basically like bleeding dry from all the lawsuits and such, and especially with the family that arrives at the island, the Site B island, where he's just kind of like, okay, that's it, John. Your keys to the kingdom are gone. We're taking it, and we're gonna take the assets, and we're gonna actually turn this around as a profit now.
Because he said so. He's telling them that. I mean, that deleted scene is long. It's full of corporate speak, but it's very fascinating. Where he's explaining how, you know, the assets are theirs. They can turn them around and really make this work for them after all the lawsuits and stuff. So, and like it says, and you also get like the scenes of him like not knowing what he's doing. Like there's that scene where he's talking about setting up a camp in the middle of a game trail where Roland Tembo promptly shuts that shit down with a
Like, what the hell are you doing, man? Are you serious? You might as well just set up a huge barbecue flambe and put us under a neon sign that says "fucking eat me."
yeah, and he it's okay. We'll get to that when we talk about Roland. We might end up going there anyway, but I said that's a great intro. But you see, Ludlow is hapless, and you could tell he commands no respect despite being the Thunder. Because there's a scene where they have to move without Roland, and he says, "Okay, everybody, let's go up," and everyone's like disregarding his words while he's clapping and saying, "Come on!" And Nick says, "Let's get the hell out of here," and they all move.
And mind you, Nick Van Owen pretty much like got them all like marooned without any communications and ruined their payday essentially. But they're still going because he said so. Whereas Lello, who did hire them, is like he has no respect. It's like poor bastard rolled nat one on
Charisma.
convincing charisma.
Yeah, and on top of that, he is responsible for the T Rex's broken leg, which is a deleted scene in the books and everything. Where while celebrating with Scotch, he's talking to Roland about this, and even tells him, "You are going to be lined up everywhere." When another animal scares him, and he kind of trips and falls right on the baby's leg, and Roland realizes,
Oh,
pissed off, "You've broken
you
its leg."
fucking idiot! You're broken its leg.
So because some
Yeah.
people,
By the way, hey Universal, can you get around and actually release the rest of the deleted scenes?
we only got
Like
two.
all you have is just you only have the two, but obviously the only two you have where you don't have to integrate dinosaur effects in. But come on, even freaking George Lucas eventually got his team of ILM to like finish the effects for deleted scenes for Phantom Menace and all of that. Why not just like even just put in like animatics of dinosaurs and them to say, okay, here's where the dinosaur would have been in this deleted scene and whatnot. But come on,
Yeah. So
like I hear all these deleted scenes, but yeah, I don't see them.
yeah, but so Ludlow is definitely a bit of a problem character. I mean, he has that scene where he's giving the speech about the Jurassic Park amphitheater, and then he tries to do that same speech again at the dock, and you're just going with him like you said though, he's like the anti-Hammond, and he does get his comeuppance because he so wants that T Rex so bad, the baby T Rex, that it ends up coming to him in a way, and he gets probably one of the more you know satisfying send offs.
A lot of people do kind of point out that like in terms of like uh greedy antagonist roles in Jurassic Park series, which is kind of mostly only heavier in the World trilogy. I feel like even in the first one with Dead Century, like the dude was just kind of like a greedy dickhead who was just going to sabotage just to get a quick paycheck out. But he did kind of like have a little bit of like a low threat level. I think yeah, that's kind of what the point I'm kind of going for is that he doesn't have like a threat level like antagonist vibe to him.
Yeah, like Dodson is supposed to have that vibe in the books. Ludlow is just well, he kind of is trying to stupidly reach for his uncle's assets, trying to be like his uncle, and that's why Ian sardonically tells him after the T Rex breaks loose at a later point. He tells him, "Guess what? Now you're gone."
John's John's got a good point. It's like they should have kept that in. Without it, it makes the hunter master jerk players broke the baby's leg and used it as bait.
Yeah, you,
It's essentially, especially pisses you off because we know Roland is actually a all around upstanding guy. He's just in it for thrill, but he doesn't want people to get hurt or killed in the process.
yeah. So and then well, Ludlow hires anybody that's good for the job, including Actually, I think we can change the order a bit. Let's just go ahead and talk about it since he's mentioned so many times. Roland Tembo, played by Pete Postlewaite, when EKA, the best character this franchise has ever seen. Like I think it goes without a doubt. A lot of guys are unanimous about that.
Well, it goes without saying, especially when you have an actor like Pete Postlewaite, who, as Steven Spielberg once said, was one of the greatest actors who have ever under a outline in theater or movie production
And he said that
that he's ever worked with.
he loved him so much that he used him in Amistad that same year. So really good working relationship. And
But yeah, but to describe Roland Tembo, he's essentially John like Muldoon, but with a little bit more charisma, a little bit less of a demented personal grudge with the Raptors. His with Roland, his eye of the prize is the T Rex's, namely the Buck.
and
But
he also kind of
to,
reminds me.
I
Oh, go on.
no, you go. No, you go on. I'm gonna be going on a little bit longer.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of Van Pelt, the hunter from Jumanji, but at least not outwardly evil like that guy is.
It also explains the baby Rex indicative nature and love that makes it satisfying.
Yes, that's payback.
Correct that. But I feel like the deleted scenes. I feel like of one scene that should have just stayed in the movie and should have stayed on. I don't care. Like if like they repeat certain aspects of the point in later scenes, they should have kept it mainly because in the deleted scene where we get introduced to Roland, he's reunited with RJ, which helps establish his really tight kinship friendship with RJ, which would lead to a very heartbreaking moment later when RJ meets his demise. But it also sets up that Roland is actually an accomplished hunter, which is probably would be what Lelo will seek to have running his operation to gather and capture all these live dinosaurs. He'd also show that he's actually a very chivalrous person who doesn't like to see like women or innocent get taken advantage of, like this group of drunk tourists who are happily like
Yeah, very touchy feely, very touchy feely.
that just grosses me out. But is also willing to show that he's got a speck of honor to tell off this asshole who was bringing down this girl, and would actually literally take the challenge to beat him with the hand tied behind his back. Of course, Roland interprets that as like, okay, I'll have my hand tied behind my back, and I'll beat you since it's my one single fist.
Which he does.
And then the scene ultimately ends with him saying like, "Look, RJ, I've done it all. I've conquered everything, probably too well to the point where I am just tired and like probably ready to just call it quits. So you go to look at my trophies. You're telling me that someone has this big opportunity. What big opportunity do you think that they have to offer that I haven't conquered?"
Yeah, and that again, that's reinterpreted later when Nick says, "You look like you have a shred of common sense. What are you doing down here?" He says, "The deadliest predator in the world lives out here. Second deadliest predator must take him out." And he mentions this. I think it's Cochrane is the name. There's this one gentleman who made a very famous climb up to Mount Everest with little equipment and almost came back completely dead. And he says that, "Why did you go up there to die?" So I didn't. I went up there to live, and that's how he sees it. He's only alive when he's like facing the odds against something that should be conquered.
But yeah, Roland is a really awesome character. I think so. I guess kid me when watching the movies like it did kind of like get surprised like, oh, this is like one of our bad guys, right? But then later on, as he's helping lead these survivors through, it would be my first experience to see like, oh, I guess he's not really a jerk. He's actually looking out for everyone's safety.
Funny enough, my prior exposure to him was the guy who gives James the magical stuff from James and the Giant Peach with the one eye.
Oh my God, that was him!
And he describes the crocodile's tongues and everything put all together. Yeah. And then later,
Uh,
I would rediscover him in Alien 3 after I had seen The Lost World. So I go, oh shit, he's that prisoner David who tries to like piss
oh,
up.
oh, was he one of the earliest kills in that movie?
No, he was actually one of the ones during the chase. He's the one that is the only guy to get a headshot besides Clemens.
Hmm.
He has a funny line where he says, "I don't like this plan. What plan? The part where we all run around with bait for that thing?" And he goes, this was her idea. And later you see him like saying, "Door 6, close, I hope." And then you see the xenomorph like come behind him, and he turns around just in time to see it like open its mouth, and he does a one last before it goes right through the door. That's how Pete Postlewaite goes out in that one. And oh my god,
Slack says I remember him in the modern Romeo and Juliet.
he was in
Okay,
that.
quick question.
Yes,
Quick question. Which are we talking about? The one where it's the modern day one, but they're still talking like it's
yes,
Shakespeare?
that one, the DiCaprio one, or as my
Uh,
drama teacher called it, the DiCaprio version.
and Dragonheart with Sean Connery.
Yes, he was the bard in that one, the friar.
I still need to see Dragonheart. But
You'll
yeah,
you'll be
Pete
in tears
Postlewaite.
by the end of that movie. Trust me.
Oh, I hope so. But yeah, Pete really did deliver this hunter character that I feel to this day I feel it's like pretty much the best character. I get more excited to see him than I do seeing Ian Malcolm or John Hammond coming back
I mean,
and all
sadly,
that.
sadly, Pete has since passed away, so there's no chance of Roland ever coming back. But he left out on a
Yeah.
high note, and he left out on a
Although funny enough, I think he was popular enough. There's a reason why he came back later for comics.
yeah,
Or he has the well-known comic panel of him wrestling with the raptor while still in the water.
damn. But yeah, I mean, like I says, once RJ is revealed to be taken out, even though he got his prize, taking out the T Rex, he looks very crestfallen when he says he didn't make it, RJ. And there's a great part where Ludlow tries to say, "Hey, you could work at the park with us," and this is a double meaning line. He's the best line ever. No,
Oh,
thank you.
no, thank you. I think I've shared enough time with the Company of Death.
So that could be interpreted as the literal, like being face to face with death. He says, "I'm done, testing my life." Also, the company of death could be calling Engine itself a company that brings nothing but death. So, either way, that is such a good line. Hell, some people interpret it as him naming the buck Death, but either way, that line works on so many layers, and the way he just walks off, that's a bittersweet, send off for a character like him.
Although he did kind of have a little bit of a fault where he let his chivalry overtake his sense of thinking, letting his gun get exposed by Nick Van Owen. Oh, to be fair, in that scene, everyone was kind of acting stupid. Like Nick was stupid getting that gun unloaded that would cause the T Rex to be a problem later. Rotland was stupid for letting that gun get like left alone without his awareness, and freaking Sarah Harding was being stupid, not just disrobing that jacket off the moment like the T Rex was like a factor with the trailer. She should
Because
have just taken that jacket off.
even Roland asks, "Are you injured?" And in fact, that shows you how he cares because he asked her, "You injured?" When he sees the blood, she says, "Oh no, it's from the baby. Like it's gonna wash off." She said the humidity's preventing it from drying.
I remember when we were rewatching it, I was like, "Wait, did they just go through like a whole slew of rain and water trudging, and that blood is still there,
Blood's
and you
hard to get
didn't
off.
get rid of it?"
Blood's hard to get off, as you know.
But no, it's not just like a little, oh, it's a little drowsy rain. No, this thing is torrential rain where everyone's like has to put on jackets to like not get like drenched off.
Yeah, and then let's see. Uh, but
Oh,
speaking
in
of,
that same scene, the Dieter had to be stupid enough to not check to see if Carter was listening to him as he decided to walk off to take a piss.
good segue into our next character, Dieter Stark, played by Peter Stormare, best known for being the asshole to compies. That's like his defining trait. Because in one scene, he's just washing off after the hunt, and this compy is just kind of like just curious at him, and out of nowhere, he decides to just take a cattle prod and just shoot it because he says, "Huh, he looks like he's not scared of me or nothing." And they say, "Oh, there's never been visitors before. He has no reason to fear man." He shocks it and goes, "Yeah, well now it does." And
It's
Roland,
just funny. Once again, that particular paleontologist was wrong, given that the reason they're there is because Yak family arrived there, and those copies definitely had a very close encounter with the human girl to the point where they uh, causes John to lose the rights to the island and say, "Okay, now we're just picking up these assets. Thanks, Uncle."
but yeah, so but yeah, um, Dieter is he's kind of like he's a hunter that's along with Roland. He said he's the second in command. I guess Ludlow hired him too, but he says when I'm not here, Dieter's in charge, and when Dieter was in charge of things, while he was away with the T Rex, the camp gets raided, and he even tells him straight faced, "That's the last time I leave you in charge." So it explains why
Ouch.
Dieter has a little bit of a axe to grind when it comes to Nick. There's a part when he goes, "Are you looking for trouble?" He goes, "Well, I found you,
I
didn't I?"
found you, didn't I?
And what's great is Peter Stormare. I had seen him a year later as the Russian in Armageddon. He is so great in that moment, and he's he has a funny story where as Pete Postlewaite's acting, Stephen jokingly told him, Dieter, come over here. See that? Look at that great actor. He's so great, and one day you're going to be as great as him."
But yeah, see, he has a very gruesome death in the copies, which is pretty much from the books. That was John Hammond's original fate in the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's shown to be cruel and sadistic to the dinosaurs. Um, and so when the copies get theirs, the first thing he does is stupid. He drops his weapon and everything, and then he hears a noise and decides to explore it. Because as we all know in horror movie rules, if you hear a noise, don't go explore a sound.
Although to be fair, they did have a pretty good fake out moment where they are aware that the big danger aside from the T-Rex fauna is that they could also encounter raptors. So you see when we build up, it's like, oh, is this where the raptor show up? And they have a very good close up where you think like, oh, the raptor lunged
It's a
him, but
compy.
nah, it's just tiny little bird sized like imp.
But then he gets lost and he takes a wrong step and takes a very bad fall, which you told me reminded you of an actual incident you had where you had fallen off your bike and rolled over.
Yeah, but to be fair, I at least managed to pull an uncharted move and uh, grab onto the grass or nearby tree root to stop myself.
Oof. But
Thankfully, my bike didn't actually fall off either. So
but still, that was an ouch moment when even when I rewatch it, I keep going, "Damn, how did he pull off that stunt?" And then it goes from hills. The track is menacing too. The track is called the Compies Dine. That's what they call the music track for when the Compies attack him.
you gotta love all these musicians like coming up with clever wordplay for their like little musical interpretations. Ask Michael Giacchino sometime of what
God,
he likes to name his stuff.
there's one track he has named called Jurassic Grass. But anyway, yeah. So
But funny enough, Michael Giacchino would actually make his big start with the Lost World video game for PS1 and Sega Saturn. And
yeah.
then, funny enough, it would eventually come full circle with him actually doing the soundtrack for Jurassic World.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the what was it? Oh yeah, so Dieter, you know, kind of gets his. But it was funny. Peter Stormare described how they had to build these copies on wires that would be like nipping at him, and he can't touch them. We kept saying, "Can you give me just one to mess with?" So they had that one attached to his lip that he was pulling off. That that yeah. So
And then another one where it's basically just a rubber. It's like basically like anything you find at Walmart, where it's like just like rubber squishy thing that you could just toss and splat around
mm-hmm. But
just
yeah,
for a physical visual effect.
yeah, but yeah. So he's memorable for how that goes out, and that yeah. So that's much to say. Other guys include Robert Burke as I think Duffy as the paleontologist based off of Robert Backer, I think, in terms of appearance. But again, we keep joking about how this guy, I think, while Hammond spared no expense, I think Ludlow might have cheaped out on getting a archaeologist, a paleontologist needs to be getting his facts wrong.
No, man, I think he just kind of like spent the budget highly on hiring Roland.
Yeah, but oh man,
Like, no, don't worry, I'll just get a paleontologist that knows certain things.
but but
We don't need an entire life history about these dinosaurs. They're
but don't
just theme park assets.
and don't forget, Pat Roland did say, "My fee, you can keep it. All I want is the right to hunt a Tyrannosaurus." Okay, I just loved it home alone.
Oh yeah, and then Lolo has the biggest fan. Say, oh sweet, I don't have to pay this guy. Oh hey.
Yeah, but I love this whole bit, like the whole when he goes cancel out. I was like, that's fine, new spot. Shall we over? And I was like, Peter, you want me to run a little camping trip? There are two conditions. First off, I am charged, and I'm not details. Second of all, my fee. You can keep it. All I want in my right in exchange for my services is the right to hunt a Tyrannosaurus, a male, a buck only. How and why is my business only. So if you don't mind any of those rules, you're on your own. So go ahead, set up that base camp right here in a swamp in the middle of directness for all I care about. I've been on too many safaris with rich dentists to listen to any more suicidal ideas. Okay?
I
Okay!
remember Steven applauded that. That was like the first take. That scene in the final movie is literally the first take that he does that.
It's an amazing speech. But yeah, um, but I
So
like.
let's see.
Okay,
Yeah,
so now on to. I mean, there's other minor people, but another big one in our cast members is. I think we could also lump in Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzella's cameo as Lex and Tim at the Hammond estate.
I did see Ariana in the behind the scenes was excited to come back to do that one where she kind of blossomed out as like, oh hey, look, here I am. I'm here. I'm doing an A-okay after the whole traumatic Jurassic Park moment.
But yeah, it was not. I mean, although as a kid, for some reason, I don't know why I hadn't seen the first one in a while, so it totally eluded me that those two kids were meant to be the same kids in the T Rex band.
Oh my God, you thought they recast as the kids?
No, but it is them. Thankfully, older, but it is them. but but yeah, but Hammond, like he says, he's changed his mind entirely. That I don't want to make the same mistakes I made before, but he's talking about getting ambitious about. Oh, well, we could save this island. We could actually use public support. He's doing all this stuff,
E-
and even Ian's
Even
telling him.
Even Richard Attenborough points out in behind the scenes, say, well, he's kind of reborn, reclaimed, but the old temptations still and the adrenaline still keeps popping up every once in a while.
Yep. So, um, what's funny is this whole bit when he mentions, but he does have a great speech. I mean, he does have the best line that we. I almost wanted to name this episode after it, where he talks about how the company got stolen from him, and it's only a matter of time before this lost world is found and pillaged. The way he says that, just
Yeah,
great one.
yeah, yeah. I had to fight to tell you, it's like, no, no, we had to keep the tagline to the movie. It's the something has to survive. It was pretty much the basis for the whole hype of this movie. It's like, because as a lot of people assume that the dinosaurs would die out in the first movie, but no, there's a whole island where they're thriving and they're doing okay.
But we do get a nice send off from Hammond. It's the last time we see Attenborough in the role where he's explaining in an interview how the animals require our absence, not our help to survive.
But technically, it's not his last role in a Jurassic Park project. He does come back for the
Trespasser.
Trespasser game, which that was I think that was a pretty big draw that they got him in, and probably the reason why a lot of people bought that game despite how buggy and unfinished and oh my god, who let this come out like
Shamus
in this
Blackley.
condition?
Who is Shamus Blackley? But yeah,
But
um, yeah. But point is though, like it's so good to see him again. Hell, even Steven, before when he finished his scenes, asked him, "Can you just one more time to say it for me?" As an adult, he does the whole "Welcome to Jurassic Park" thing.
to be fair, if I was the director and I had an actor I relished and wanted to hear a line used again, I would have done the same thing.
But yeah,
But
Richard Attenborough plays him so well. But and like he says, even Ian points out, wow, he went from capitalist to naturalist in 4 years. That's something. Because he's talking about how this is a
it,
good.
it's funny again as I keep pointing out. This was my first Jurassic movie, but meeting him in this way, uh, still kind of gave him. I think kind of elevated more as this whimsical old man than the first movie when I would see it. Because first one he's kind of like peppy and like lively and popping off champagne bottles and just like having a little bit of a jive going on. But here he's kind of a little more reserved, but he's got like this intelligence that he's kind of built up over the years and like got this kindness and like he's got a decent moral mission to put out to send these people off to on this dangerous dinosaur island. It's like yes, it's dangerous, but letting the dinosaurs alone for someone else to pick off for encounter is going to be even worse for us,
But I
for
love,
everyone.
and I love how he tries to sidestep the whole Sarah thing. When I got Nick Van Owen, I got Eddie Carter's paleontologist, and you. And when Ian's trying to find a follow, you right away goes, no, 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 Ian, she came to me first, okay? Leave it to you to have professional friends, even liaisons with the best people in the field.
Oh my god, you did not call Sarah.
Yeah, but God, I love that bit. He mentions, by the way, your girlfriend came to me first. But yeah, so it's nice to see
Surprised
Ham.
he lasted till Surprised he lasted till 2014. He lived long enough to have said a few lines for Jurassic World. Oh yeah, he did. He did
Yes.
do some of that for that. So this was not technically the last we see hear of them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so okay, so we've talked about Hammond and his ventures and his bold ambitions, but let's talk about the critters themselves.
Yes, we're here for the main attractions. This is the Jurassic Tours after all. So let's kick off with, of course, uh, a, one of our friends, Turtles and Monkeys' favorite dinosaurs, the Stegosaurus.
I drew a very detailed comic when I first met her of her becoming a Stegosaurus. You can still find that under Megasaurus if you're interested.
I'm still waiting for that line of dinosaur pictures you were doing for everyone else, but I'll just add that on to a list of other projects that you had promised, but kind of late side, but no one's touching you. Anyway, the Stegosaurus is it's especially funny that we're starting off considering the fact that I'm sure in the first movie Steven wanted like so bad. I I honestly think that's they're the biggest reason why you want to do sequels. Like I didn't get to do it. I did get to do a dinosaur movie, but I didn't get to do a dinosaur movie with Stegosaurus. I want to do a movie with Stegosaurus,
Because
man.
he said he got so much letters from people saying, "Where was the Stegosaurus? Where was the Stegosaurus?" Because, as I mentioned in the book, that the sick animal that ate the berries was actually a sick Stegosaurus, and they changed it to a Triceratops. But yeah,
Why did they change it to Triceratops?
well, better profile for one thing.
This
But yeah. So we get our Stegos, and this was the first wow moment. You know, when they go to the island and then you see them just coming out of the forest.
oh they look so good like against the backdrop of the Eureka, California redwoods where they filmed most of this, and it definitely really solidifies when you watch it that oh yeah, this is Jurassic Park movie. In Jurassic Park, they know how to do dinosaurs. But I argued when we were watching that movie, when we were watching this movie recently, I argued that okay, well, Jurassic Park they had the means to show off the dinosaurs because they always had these open fields. They had this like huge wide open set that they could just have these dinosaurs like be like products. They're essentially like center stage uh scenes essentially. But in here they're like literally like weaving through the trees. There there's a lot of bush that they had to like realistically affect to shake and rattle as if to emphasize that okay, this is where the Stegosaurus are going to be implemented later, but we're going to still shake the flora and fauna in the foreground still to show that they're here.
And they make such a beautiful sound. They just have a great bellow. I mean, one of my
And
earliest toys I ever owned from the Lost World was that Stegosaurus with the peel away spike that reveals the ribcage.
when the Jurassic World line were doing the toys for Mattel, that the Stegosaurus I think was like one of the big ones I had to collect because obviously I had to get Blue first because Blue was the best girl, but I knew like okay I had to get like I knew I had to get the big ones. I had to get the Triceratops. I had to get T Rex eventually, and but most especially I had to get the Stegosaurus because I grew up on those dinosaurs first.
Yeah, and the detail on their plates, most Stegosauruses have like these stumpy little scoots, but they give him like this beautiful streamlined, like diamond shaped scoots in the back that just it's just chef's kiss on a Stegosaur.
And in some angles, like they were able to masterfully get the light to beam around the outline exactly. So if you mess up lighting with the visual effect, it's gonna stick out like a bad sore thumb. But here they actually managed to like okay, so enough light is seen through it, but not enough where it's like translucent,
But
and the rest of the light is able to bathe through it.
As Ian says, you know, ooh, ah, that's how it always starts. Later, running and screaming, and in this case, when the baby seems to be threatened, the Stegosauruses are also going from awe-inspiring to terrifying. Like you're going like, oh crap, this thing could actually hurt me.
But to be fair, they only get aggressive to get the baby out of harm's way, and essentially they're essentially pulling a peacock movers. Like, here, I have a big massive tail. It's like, don't mess with this, or you'll get it worse.
Yeah, and okay, but speaking of the baby, like you mentioned, in the set crew named this baby Stegosaurus animatronic Claire, and Julianne Moore was just so taken by it. Like she's just looking at it, and I think the wonder you see on Sarah's face is genuine because Julianne's thinking, "Oh my God, this thing's like a living baby." Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a step up over the Triceratops that was kind of playing for the crew to gawk and on, see and react and feel heartbroken, like seeing it's kind of lumbering and laying down. Here, this dinosaur is upright. It's like reacting, cocking its head, blinking, uh, interacting, feeling like the actress Julian Moore petting it and kind of like shaking its head into it. Is just like just a little bit more, please.
There's a very cute camel moose cow noise when she's stroking the nose. This little like ooh, ooh, like oh, I really get taken by that. Of course, when the camera's out of film, that's when the poor thing screams like help, help. And what's cute is I thought the only scene we see Claire in. We see her later at the hunter's camp, which means those bastards captured the Stegos, but Nick freed them, and we get
That's also where we get to see. So they originally did have physical on the set large Stegosaurus, but that's before Steven said like, actually this would work a lot better if this was a CG effect. But thankfully their work didn't go to waste. So they essentially the crew did have an idea. Say, okay, so we understand how we're gonna handle these dinosaurs for like big wide shots where we're gonna show the scale and grandness of this adventure. That those are gonna be CG. For ones that are just gonna be up close for humans to interact with, or are in enclosed captured spaces like cages and all that. Those are the ones that are gonna be real, the up close and personal ones.
yeah. So
And ultimately, I feel like that was like pretty much the golden rule that I feel like every Jurassic Park movie afterwards should follow if they
mhm,
want to get it successful.
yeah. So in fact, you kind of see the awe and smiling in Vince Vaughn and Julianne Moore's face when that Stego in the cage looks at them and bellows, and they're like, "Oh, that this thing's awesome." and
Also, we did finally get to see a physical Triceratops upright actually
and
interacting.
and the baby. There was a baby in that cage too. It was actually the same baby that he couldn't use for a scene where Lex was supposed to ride on the back of a baby trike at one point.
Huh.
But
Uh, well, at least they did get to have someone ride a Triceratops later in the Jurassic World movie.
mhm. Yeah. So we got that, and the game trail we have so many dinosaurs that fly by. We got galleys, we got a Metriacanthosaurus, that big ass, a sauropod. That's not a Brachiosaurus or an Apatosaur, but it's huge and it has a nice shot where this motorcyclist just like drives right
Oh,
through it.
it has like the most like earth grounding noise it makes that as we like pass by us. Like it's really I think of all the dinosaur noises, that one's got to be the most dinosaur noise in my opinion when it gives off.
And then,
Like
um,
the first time I heard it, it's like that's the noise of an actual dinosaur. I believe that.
and then,
I literally believe that would be the actual noise a dinosaur makes back then.
and then, in the Jurassic Park arcade game, you have to shoot that thing because
Or
it'll
else it
smashes
shits
you.
on you.
Yes, but yeah, um, and then you have my favorite from the game trail, the Parasaurolophus, the Pompadour, Elvis, Ducky.
They had a pretty good. They were able to pull off the effect on that one. I think they had a certain actors on wires being pulled off to lifted.
Yeah, it's very Valley of Guanji with that part. But yeah,
Still need to see that movie.
but
And
I
you also have. Oh no, go on. Before I was gonna swap to another dinosaur, but I think you still got
I love
more on that one.
I just love the bellow. While the Metriacanthosaurus roar, well not Metriacanthus, but the big Masushina, the big sauropod noise is your dinosaur sound. For some reason, the wild, angry bull through a tube sound that they make for the para is my favorite sound from this movie.
And then we have the Pachyderm.
The Pachycephalosaurus, hard-headed guy, head bumpies, as me and my sister always called him.
It has a very iconic moment where when it's like still in midst of being wrangled, it gets a chance to buck this guy through a cheap door as it slams through. That whole scene, aside from the dinosaur, was literally physical. The impact of the door happened. The guy got pulled through. It's moments like that where I feel like Hollywood kind of lost like their enamored with the physical. Physical is coming back in a lot of ways, but I feel like for like they think like okay, so we can't do physical stuff for intense stunt scenes. Like that's we're gonna draw a line of that.
At least Tom Cruise is keeping the thing alive.
Oh yeah, he's always got to come up with crazy
Oh
stunts.
my god, Tom Cruise in a Jurassic movie might kill that movie, but you will see some crazy stunts with it. I only say that
But
because
I mean,
the mummy like
mm,
imploded.
to be fair, that movie only got ruined because he overshadowed the monster. But it's kind of hard to overshadow monsters that lumber over you, like 6 foot tall and all, having rows of sharp teeth ready to bite you down.
Yeah. Anyway, um,
Actually, you know what? No, no, that's not a good time because he insists that every dinosaur they build, like lifelike, they run out the budget and also get into like, and I think that would be the point where you actually get injured doing something
like
and would actually regret it later.
he's gonna want a T Rex jaw to actually. I want it to really snap at my leg. I want to kick it aside. I want it to actually snap at my leg, and I'm gonna hang off of a Brachiosaurus's neck.
And
Anyway,
Stan Winston is up in heaven, smack his forehead, going like, "This guy have a fucking death wish."
yeah. So okay, and then but the Packy, he only gets one scene, but he's like an iconic. That toy I had too, the head bump. It has spring loaded, head where if you like bop the neck in and pull the leg, his head just goes, bam. Okay, so
But now we can get to the dinosaurs to actually get a lot more focused instead of being like a smorgasbord, a buffet to like pick and choose what you want. So we got the compies, and they're the little grubby little scavengers that are they're. Yeah, I know we started with the Stegosaurus, but in actuality, they're actually the startup for the movie, where they kind of have this like cute, whimsical moment that turns into every parent's worst nightmare.
mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, like
And as I've convinced Jonesy for a long time now, if I were to have deaths to happen in Jurassic Park, for God's sakes, I do not want to die by compies.
yeah, and
Because a T Rex, it would be like quick and simple. The Raptor, it hurt, but at least you'll like it'll be done in at least in like 30 seconds. With compies, they will be biting you for a good while, and you will feel every single bite, every single gnaw, every single blood vessel spurt as they just go to town on you. And it's not just one mouth; it's like 15,
and supposedly
like at once.
according to the
Please.
novel, they're venomous. That their venomous makes you kind of like slow down for them. You see it kind of when Dieter, for some reason, after falling down, just starts washing his face like he's forgetting he's being chased by dinosaurs before the compies hop on him again.
He did kind of have that haze when he was lumbering through
And he
the little stream of water.
and he was wheezing more the more the scene was going on, if you noticed. So that might have been compy venom.
So poor Buster was like already dead, and he didn't know it.
Yeah, like it doesn't like kill you, but it makes it easy for
It,
a narcotic effect, kind of.
but as you'll soon notice, it's easier to make physical effects for really small dinosaurs because you can manage to. At many points, I always joke just like, "Oh, these are like the high budget uh, foam string dinosaurs you get at theme parks and all that, where you kind of puppet them around by their necks with like this long wire." And that's literally how they puppet them in the movie. They have them like on like long strings, and they're able to move its head, jostle it, make its mouth open in and out, and all that. There are also some other ones where they make where there's like one that's actually you actually see it breathing when the camera angle is up underneath its belly before Dieter shocks it. Like even Steven Spielberg was like enthralled by this. Like, oh yeah, you see it's breathing. And it's like makes it look so real.
And as producer Kathleen Kennedy pointed out, who would have thought that the most terrifying thing in the whole series is the little dinosaur?
Yeah, to the point where I couldn't help but to draw the initial plan for the thumbnail here to have the logo be overcome by the compies because they're I feel like they're the big breakout stars of this movie. Like, yeah, we have the baby T Rex and other Stegosaurus, but when the compies show up, that's like, okay, I better uh, pick up the pace a step, but move away from them and leave them alone. Otherwise, I'm really, really gonna be in trouble.
But yeah, so compies. You know, the full name is Procompsognathus triasis. You know, that's they even have the funniest level in the video game because you get to be a compy first. You get to the cooler dinosaurs.
And funny enough, they actually make their debut earlier before the Lost World movie, because and actually they were in the book, the first Jurassic Park novel, so their appearance would actually happen in the video games. Which uh, before we recorded today, I just decided, oh hey, the Jurassic Park Classic Game Collection is on sale for half off. I may as well just get it so I can at least get a handle on these old games before we talk about them in detail in a possible episode. We could talk about them, but yeah, they appear in the video games, most notably in the Sega Genesis one, where if you play as a raptor, they're the main ways that you can regain your health as a raptor. You just biting them down as their little snack.
So we have them next on our list. Speaking of them, good segue. The next thing we get to see is everyone's favorite dinosaurs from the last movie, now kind of playing second banana, but still, it's pretty formidable. The raptors.
It's funny they're the second brand and they're the cover, the main cover appearance for the re-release VHS and DVD sets.
But yeah, hell,
Uh,
like one of my favorite photos is on the back of the VHS tape is the raptors, and they had a lot of photography shoots, and they actually made it more accurate to their book description of being tiger striped and orange and everything.
to the point where I lovingly nicknamed this group of raptors that get their appearance in the movie called the Tiger Claws with a Z at the end.
But oh my god, the scene they're in though is amazing. Now you could argue the raptors are a little more stupider and uncoordinated, but that's probably because they've been in the wild without any structure.
And there's no big one to corral them to do things that are a little bit more smart. They're essentially like a bunch of dumb kids who like aren't don't need anyone to tell them what to do, and they're just keen to do anything to the point where if one of them does something stupid on one of them and gets them hurt, they'll retaliate and show who's like the top raptor in the bunch.
But yeah, but they do have a great scene that's almost comical where the hunters go into the long grass, but RJ warning them not to go in there. And there's a part where you see from the overhead shot that the raptors are starting to like close in on them, and then yoink, they just start getting yoinked almost comically every time with the raptors just taking them out.
The whole sequence, I said like commented, oh, this is basically like what any normal stealth gameplay is like. It's like hiding behind like tall grass and killing fools left and right, and then at a point you kind of get uh, too into it, and oops, now everything's gone to chaos. I guess we're gonna have to kill everybody.
And oh man, the that iconic shot of the poor hunter turning around just in time to see that raptor just pop out of the grass and poof, with with the
Chomp down.
with the most undignified scream, ah, with his face all like, yeah, like it does stick with you for years. And man, there's a deleted photo shot of like a raptor in the long grass with like a bloody snout.
Ooh,
But yeah, I like how even
they,
though
they and they would be pretty much be they were intended to be like one of the final antagonists of the movie, aside from a certain uh flying bunch. But there it is again. Like this smudge. I'll find the original notes here, but you continue on with your point.
But yes, I like how Ian, even though he never got to face the raptors in the first movie, at least remembers their sounds from when they ate that cow to pieces. And I think he probably remembered Alan's words about them. So that's why he knew when he heard the raptors were there. He just told them, "Go as fast as you can." Mm-hmm. And it,
They have they're pretty much like really undeniably relentless and are willing to do anything to get their prey to the point where they'll just jump themselves through glass windows or even like just kind of pull. I call this movement the Woody Woodpecker movement, where they're just bashing their nose against the glass car door
and that's
to
like
the point where their own snout is pushing through.
my third favorite shot in the whole movie, with the music rising crescendo as you see the raptor like backlit as he's trying to dig into it, and Ian's like focusing on the diggers.
All those guys with the AK-47s get wiped out.
True.
Yeah, thought a lot of good those guns did. Hey, next time, aim and shoot!
But yes, um, oh my gosh, uh, and I love the noises of the raptors in this one better than the previous one. Like, there's a particular sound I really like. It's the part when Ian is like making sure the raptor didn't track him, and it makes this little like clank, and it makes this higher. You know, you know exactly the sound I'm talking about.
I think I do, but
It's right before he starts banging the before he goes into the gas station. But there's a part, yeah, where he's like ducking down, he's poking his head out, and then the raptor hops up, makes a high pitched shriek. Then he tries to go into the gas station, and boom. And then also I love the it's a simple effect, but I love the gloves they made for the digging hands, where you just see these claws in the sand. That's just tingles, man.
perfectly John gets it timed. Like, Chud Scare is awesome. I'm assuming he's talking about where Kelly was just about to get through and then, like, BAM! Wrapped her head.
Yeah, it worked. And again, I like that shot too of when Sarah barely ungracefully jumps onto the roof of the building, but that raptor does in one single leap, whoop, like clears the whole thing, no problem.
Someone had a lot of practice with the freaking Genesis controls.
But oh man, I like that she used its weight against it to drop the shingles. And again, the raptors are rendered so well. Derek can attest to this. Every time I kept yelling out, "How is this 28-year-old CG?"
I don't know, but well, I mean, they probably did have like a lot of notes from the first time, and I think they would also have a lot more. So they do have a lot of dinosaurs that they did make models of, but I think they only saved them just so that they could get like uh light tests, like what's the phrase? The reference for light reference to model them later.
But yeah, I think again, the raptors in this one are better than the raptors in the first movie. I said it.
To be fair, they got a lot more kills than they did in the first movie.
Well, just they're more scarier, more cooler, and I like tiger stripes. So mm, it's an amazing raptor. So anyway, well, we all know I said their second banana this time around because the star of the last movie is the star of this one, to the point where they're on the poster. You know, the title of the Lost World being shattered apart with the T Rex head coming through.
Where it's not just one Rex, it's now a whole family of them.
Yeah.
So we got the female again, which we could be able to tell from that it has the same model and build from the first one. It's colored a little bit differently
She has
because this is
stripes.
not the same. Yeah, she has stripes. This is not to to alleviate confusion. No, this is not the same Rex from the first one that gets found later for the rest of the world trilogy. That she's still skulking around on Nublar. This is a different one on Sorna, and she's accompanied by a big buck who is noticeably has a different sound implemented. It's got more of like a pig bore to its growls. Like, you'll know which one is the female if you recall. Oh yeah, that's the sound I recall from the first movie. But anytime the buck roars, it's completely different. And also, as Jonesy pointed out to me, it's got a little bit more ridges on its forehead bumps.
Yeah, on the snout, and he has some scarring on his cheeks too. If you notice, like they're very hard to miss, but you see it on the models. And he's much more fluid and vicious than the previous model. So he's the one that does stuff like rip Eddie right out of the car, or you know, rip apart the Mercedes. Where like the T Rexes are so big in this one that they have to warn everybody. These things can kill you. So there's a danger zone. Don't get in the danger zone. If like a wire should short out or these guys start freaking out, you want to be as far away from the damage zone as possible.
And at least Steven understands the danger of it, considering the fact that he's had history with a shark not working. So having a T-Rex not working would be pretty dangerous. At least the shark would stay in the water. Here, it's like if like a head like whips away in a fashion that's not normal, or if like someone's like caught in a way of like it moving in a non-stop function, that would be dangerous. But luckily, as far as we saw in any of the behind the scenes documentaries, the Rexes all behaved very well. They did not have any breakdowns, even if they got torrential rain on them. I guess like the people were able to like, okay, so we got enough of this build here that we can like keep the rain water from affecting the gears and all that. So I think it's a testament to the Stan Winston crew that they made not only just one but two huge life-size T-Rexes that were bigger than the first one, but they did not have any problems of note whatsoever.
Well, like they mentioned though, as Rich Carter always joked, these guys were so huge that you didn't take the T Rexes to the set. No, 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 no. You're about to set to them. They had to build every time they needed to do something different. They had to build the trailer to the part they're going to be. Take out the trailer, replace it with Eddie's car. Take out the car, make a bedroom so that Buck can poke his head through and look at a kid staring out the window.
And then they would also sometimes have the Rexes against blue screen so that they can have an effect later, because there's certain places where setting them up would be kind of impossible.
But yes, so it's so seamless, and the Buck has such great expression. Like that scene where he sniffs and roars at the camera, very seamless. That's like a real T Rex. So and then we have
Oh
Junior.
yeah, we actually do have. Oh, the little star, the main attraction in the even the thumbnail that I'm carrying. It's this big star considering the fact that it's a very fully
Contained, self-contained
animatronic, self-contained animatronic. Sure, they built some with that would have wires that would go through
tables
certain
and stuff.
actors' sleeves and arms and all of that. But they did build one that was like completely remote, and it still functioned very well, impressively.
Like Steven told Stan, you may have built a T Rex and everything, but that's your miracle right there. He said.
It, I, I think like as far as I recall, there's only like two shots of the baby T-Rex with CG, but for the rest of it in the entire appearance of this movie, it's all physical. I think it's got the most physical appearance in the movie, like right, mostly next to the Claire the Stegosaur.
And oh my god, it's funny how this thing can be both vicious and cute. Because when you first meet him, he's just chowing down on some rotting flesh like nothing. But then later you
And the
see
poor
him.
thing is here mewling. I only just learned this recently. The sound effect they chose for the baby crying out is an actual sound of a baby camel when it gets separated from its mama.
And it is.
So I'm sure that's a fun time that the sound makers were having, is separating that baby camel. This is it trying so hard not to feel remorse or bad that their like emotions are picked up by the microphone.
It works because you feel for the poor baby.
Especially considering the fact it's going through so much. It's literally gets kidnapped was technically three times. Because his first time it's the hunters to lure the bait for the T Rex outside of his nest. The second time is by Nick, but it's mostly more rescue to heal it than it is to kidnap. But to the parents, it doesn't matter. You kidnap, it's still kidnap. And it gets kidnapped a third. No, it gets kidnapped four times by picked up by Peter Ludlow to be at San Diego, and then get kidnapped by
Ian.
Ian
Poor.
for a later scene.
I'm
That
surprised. I'm surprised. The poor baby didn't like just get traumatized at the sight of humans, given how many times bad things have happened to it. Oh,
it only just has one good moment.
eh, fun fact: during the T Rex nest scene, when you see the baby, there's a dead Parasaurolophus in clear view, and thanks to information by famed YouTuber Clayton Fioriti, there's like a deleted alternate opening where the fisherman would have brought up a carcass of a Parasaurolophus.
I think originally it was for a different dinosaur, but it it's headed and built a Parasaurolophus, and then they decided, okay, we're not gonna open with that. We're gonna like take a cue from the first book instead. But they still like still salvage even they still salvage even a deleted scene uh dinosaur practical effect, which is sadly still not to be said for this last one we'll talk
Oof.
unless we still have some more to talk about the baby. But I think you kind of pretty much covered the baby
But he's just
essentially.
he's cute. He's amazing. The noises he makes just are sorrowful, but he has a heck of a bite on him.
But it's to the point where even Stan Winston suggested to Vince Vaughn, it's like, I know you have to act like you have to restrain it, but if it moves, you have to move with it. Do not fight back on it.
Because you will break it. But oh my god, like you know, it's sad to think. I don't think much of those replicas still exist unless they're preserved somehow. Because rubber rots. But I would
Yeah,
love
it does.
if they made a statue of based off the molds of the baby.
I know they did save most of the molds because they would later have the Jurassic Park. What's that? I forget what it's called. Jurassic Park tours. No relation. Uh, for that Japan event,
And I
that
know,
where they would actually have actual dinosaur effect, but it's backed up by Stan Winston molds,
and I
just
know,
for the show aspect of
and
it.
I know that the maquettes were saved. Like when you go to Universal, you'll have a Jeep, and sometimes they'll have like the buck on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, and like we mentioned, I think it's all the major dinosaur appearances. Oh, except for one last sought after appearance, the pterodons.
Which so the pterodons were actually originally planned to appear in the ending. In my opinion, I feel like it's kind of almost it would almost feel like it's a tacked on aggressive obstacle. It would essentially be like, okay, imagine if we did a Jurassic Park movie, but we never once mentioned the raptors, and then all of a sudden, oh no, here come the raptors. There's a big fact. I think even Angry Video Game Nerd kind of relates this to a different, for a completely different thing. He did still kind of make the same point. It's like, oh, or, there's a boss that doesn't get any build up until like the last moment. It's like, just imagine if Ganondorf got built up like with just like the same finesse at last minute. It's like, oh, there's this big monster. Oh, here's a monster. Rawr.
Yeah, I would be like if you were watching an alien movie and now know where a predator shows up. Like
Like, where
cool,
did he
but
come from?
yeah. So they had this whole sequence where they would have escaped from the long grass with hang gliders, but then the pterodons would have come in and tore them to pieces.
It's set. I know that they're the hunters, but like, do we really have to be that aggressive on them? But
Like they
then again,
described,
we're
they just,
a lot of people have problems with Eddie Carr being massacred. So
but
what do we know?
then again, as Roland says, you get more prison time for shooting a tiger than shooting your own parents. Even the tigers have advocates. So, anyway, as I was saying though, the survivors would have gotten onto the helicopter would have gotten out, but then all of a sudden a pteranodon would have poked its beak through the bubble shield, yanked the pilot out, one of the co-pilots, and then the other pterodon would get hit by the roller blades, and then they would fly away, to safety as one last haha scare.
Huh, that sounds like a scene that would be later be used, but yeah, the ending that they proposed didn't happen, strangely enough. So,
We
and it's even more heartbreaking considering the fact that they actually did make a physical pterodon to use for close up, but it never got used.
thankfully it
As
did,
far as I know,
but thankfully the maquette work did end up being made for the iconic end shot of this movie. We see a pterodon on a tree.
yeah, it's
The screech
it's so
makes you
hilarious.
laugh.
Like, oh, okay, at least we'll at least give you the pterodons. If this is the last Jurassic Park movie, at least end it off on this.
And then, of course, we laughed when the guy was describing sounds, and he says he never likes to use non-organic sounds, but he says he had this floss that when it would screech open, it was the most horrible sound. So he took that same sound and deepened it to make the screech at the end. But anyway, that's.
And it was dental floss, of
Mm-hmm.
all things.
But yeah, so um, I think we alluded to it enough. But should we talk about the music first, or talk about the
Yeah, we should have to talk about the music because I know a lot of people love the original Jurassic Park. Well, considering which theme you want to do, the more whimsical one or the more ominous one, whatever. There's it's where whichever theme you hear, you'll know is that essentially, oh, it's a theme for Jurassic Park. And so obviously John had a pretty big shoes to fill to say, okay, I know that people were wowed by the first movie, but I feel like I don't need to use that unless it's relating to a character like John Hammond
or going
to kind of like revoke
or when Nick goes to the village and finds a painting of the original.
the original Jurassic Park. It's like, oh, it's what could have been. But no, he decided like, okay, I know I'm known for bombastic trumpets and violins and all that, but here I think you're gonna try to do something different.
He says he wanted
And boy, does it stand out.
he goes for a more ethnic, tribal drum vibe, like because you're in this jungle, you're in this primitive world, so he has like these very primitive sounds, where like the most of it's driven by drums, and you get like horn flourishes and string flourishes just to accent the horror of things. He says it's probably a more horrifying score than the first one, which I would agree. But it does have a great action, you know, the main theme, the la da da na 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 that's just it's probably the best
That
Jurassic Park
that one,
theme.
that one I feel is a lot more adventurous than the original Jurassic Park theme.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that original theme, it's kind of more like
For the show.
awing and more like for show. It's the theme park show floor theme. It's essentially what you hear when you arrive at Universal Parks and hear that music going off.
This is true, but
But the music that you hear for The Lost World, I'd argue, is the music you hear if you're going through the rides themselves.
mm-hmm. And then the main theme from the Lost World is probably one of my favorite, not just Jurassic track, but music tracks. Period. In terms of movie scores, it's among the top of my most go to musics. Is that ba dum bum ba dum bum 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 bum? It gets more adventurous and more tense the more it goes on. And um,
And
again,
honestly, I don't think
hmm,
we're giving the guy enough credit the way we describe it. We can't. How can we put into words how great this guy is that he's able to pull off? He's able to pull off with doing music that doesn't sound like, oh, this is just retreading the same things we're doing here.
mm-hmm.
Which I think leads better to the heavy emphasis that it proves Steven that this is like a different sequel. This is an actual sequel of a movie, whereas like Indiana Jones, like you'll hear the same cues, like it's like the same recurring thing is with like recurring characters like Harrison Ford or anything. Which is why he doesn't consider the Indiana Jones movies as sequels. They're just like different adventures, different serials.
But yeah, the probably one of my favorite tracks unused is The Hunt, which has a more adventurous, almost prequel era style music, but it was replaced with a much more intense drum beat that you hear during the scene chasing the Packy and the Parasaurolophus. And of course, another song I really love is the rescuing the trailer song because it just
Oh yeah.
a bunch of just it's just drums, but the drums get more intense. You get bongos, then the horns come in for a heroic flourish when you think Eddie's gonna save the day. Then you hear like this almost funeral bells play. Like listen closely again when the T Rexes march in, you hear like this ominous dirge bell as the strings relish that okay the T Rex has found you, and then um, the Raptor theme just when they're attacking it's just a great that's more horns than anything the whole track has, but you know, it's a great scene. Um,
Okay, so I did finally uncover. So we do have an ending to this movie, which uh, it's huh, it's not on Site B. Well, where would he end this movie on? So it's finally time to bring the uh brick into the whole thing. This is probably another reason why a lot of people felt that this movie didn't quite live up to this first one. It's that they decided to have. I guess you could say this is the fourth act of a movie because it just like the way they leave the island is kind of feels like it's the end of a third act, and all of a sudden Steven Spielberg feels like, nah, we should have like another moment here. It's the fourth act of the movies where it turns out that after Roland manages to trank the buck dinosaur, the T Rex, they were able to at least have a dinosaur to show off for their San Diego park.
well,
Which I had to note. It's funny that John Hammond complained that, oh, why didn't I build it in Orlando? It's like probably because you're too busy building one in San Diego, dude.
also, before we go back to that, we should mention that during the T Rex chase scene, that's another great moment. You know when Doe is chasing after her quarry and Carter gets an unceremonious end being smushed by her.
Yeah, I had to bring that up. So did they kind of mess up when they were filming that? Because I feel like they're using the Buck's roars, the ones that's chasing them,
No, no, no. It's
but the Buck is supposed to still be the one that's left behind that Roland
no,
hunts.
no, no. The buck makes a more of a roar noise, whereas the female is doing a lot of noises that the female was making in Jurassic Park. Plus, the she's making the more high
I don't know.
she's making the more high pitched and she's in the waterfall. That sounds more like traditional Rexy noises when she's in the waterfall.
Well, yeah, that's when I know that's a doe. But when it's like chasing all the hunters, they're going through that like not really a hallway. It's more of like a trailway. It's kind of giving more of a gravelly uh noise. It's not giving the same roars that the other female, the Rexy, gives when she's chasing
But
the jeep.
counterpoint, it is the same noises that was used in the teaser "Something Has Survived" when the T Rex steps on the water and the logo forms. That was a female T Rex. That wasn't the buck. The buck still has much more of a. It's he's got more deeper growls, and you hear it more during the San Diego sequence.
But my counterpoint is the one that's like left behind has a little bit more of a greenish tint, and the one that was chasing them initially had the buck dark colors. So it's who dropped the ball on that one?
Okay, unless we argue both of them were chasing him, and the buck ended up, when he was digging his thing into the water, maybe he just finished eating Carter after smashing him off the doe's foot. I don't know.
Uh, that's a bit of a stretch, but it's better than nothing, I suppose.
Anyway, I want to go back to that point because our expert paleontologist Burke freaks the fuck out when a non-venomous red and black king snake gets in his vest, and he freaks out to go into the mouth of the angry Mamasaurus.
He freaks out and say, "Oh my God, it's a snake! A snake!
and
A snake! Oh shit! I forgot the T-Rex! Forgot the T-Rex! No! Let me get the snake! Ah!"
boom! I think there's a snake bought it too, unfortunately. but
Huh, the doe got 2 in 1.
but I'm just going like because we all know that old rhyme: red touches black, venom lack. Red touches yellow, kill a fellow. That's the name for the king snake and coral snake. but
Good to know. So yes, apparently the movie is not done. It looks like it's deciding to go to overtime by having uh the boat, the U.S.
Venture.
the SS Venture, named serendipitously after the same Venture as the one from the original King Kong, which obviously this whole fourth act is gonna have a lot of references to movie points to the point where even the original Lost World movie also had a dinosaur running rampant in the at the time modern day civilization.
Uh,
Only in that one it was a Brontosaurus
mm-hmm.
or Brachiosaur running. But Steven said like that's cool, but I gotta have a T Rex running through the city of mine.
And oh my god, is he so well integrated? That's 100% mostly CG with the few shots of his, like, the buck model used.
It it's even a bigger testament to the ILM guys that they were able to pull off this last minute change. They did a last minute change to the first one too, but that was like just a single scene essentially where Steven says like, okay, the Raptors would get taken down by a bone of a T Rex, but what if it's an actual T Rex instead? Whereas here it's like, okay, yeah, the pterodons and all that is cool, but what if we actually get to see a dinosaur in San Diego running rampant?
Because the idea was
And
they would
that's
have.
literally the whole last end of the movie.
So they said if they ever did a third one, that would have been their main thing was dinosaurs on the mainland. But he says, I might not get a chance to make another one, so let me just do it here.
I mean, to Steven's credit, the last time he tried to tease for a future movie, that didn't really go anywhere. Actually, I quickly back to the Barbasol can. I did kind of had a moment where it's like, okay, maybe that moment where they filmed it, even though they originally didn't get to go back on it, it still teased a, funny uh way of like how it would be a new way for dinosaurs to be preserved for future generations. Where before it was mosquitoes in amber encased with the blood of dinosaurs, but now we have this Barbasol can that has all the DNA of dinosaurs that's getting encased in mud and pretty much swallowed by the earth.
Mm-hmm. Clever.
But then I realized, like, oh wait, didn't the Barbasol only have like a short lifespan for the cryo things? But I don't know.
Anyway, but yeah. So what's funny is that it does kind of turn into a little bit of a monster movie, but it does have some impressive effects, like uh, the idea. But here's one big tiny thing though. We see the boat crash, and then Ludlow and the guards go up to see what happened on the boat, and the guy says the crew's all over the place. But you have to wonder how much damage can a big-headed T Rex do to a little boat cabin?
That's it. To like this had to take a lot of like fan theorists across YouTube to kind of realize that okay, well to be fair, we only see at least one side of the cabin. We never saw the other one. Maybe they managed to break through and break that, but at the very least, they should have at least angled the camera to show that it. We have to leave an interpretation to the point where at one point for a long time when I watched this movie, I assumed that the raptors that velociraptors actually snuck on board and managed to eat the crew, and then like unintentionally uh, rile the T Rex up to end up being like chewed on. But apparently, one of the separate crew members said like, so yeah, Roland kind of shot the buck with too much tranquilizer and was starting to lose consciousness and lose its heartbeat,
So they
breathing.
did
So
a
we
counter
decided
agent.
to, without knowing the proper dosage, so it kind of had a little bit of a adrenaline surge. It's as if we gave it the shot can of Monster Energy drink.
It's basically Batman at the end of the Batman after he gets the green adrenaline shot direct to him.
Hook it to my veins.
But yeah, yeah, you're right on the money. Apparently, it was planned that Raptors were going to be on the thing, but they never got around to filming it. So it left
It
them.
would have been it would have been a nice homage to the original ending of the first Jurassic Park novel, where raptors did actually intentionally did stow away on some boats and are going to be ending up on mainlands.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, um,
Which
so
that's actually one of the endings for the Sega Genesis game. With like, which oh my god, I need to vent a little bit. I almost lost my fucking mind when I was playing a little bit of the Raptor trying to handle the controls, and then I had to face Alan Grant, but it never once tried to. I assumed I had to like attack and eat Alan Grant, but of course, like, oh no, we can't break the cannon. So all you have to do, apparently, is break a fucking boulder that's holding up all the dinosaur bones that Ian is standing on, and then oh, he falls down, and well, I guess he's defeated then. But yeah, let's not even get into how the game doesn't explain to you that to open doors of the reactor, you have to just press the up button by itself, just the up button.
That reminds me of select is the get battering, up is the grapple hook. Select shouldn't even be a part of the whole rant about the control scheme in Batman. But
But okay, so ran over. Point is, that game ended with the raptor uh stowaway on a board on a boat in a crate.
you gotta admit though,
So even the video game decided to take notes from the novel.
it is really metal image to see Ludlow like panicking at whatever he's seeing that's grossing him out. You just see this severed hand on the lever.
It's cool, but then logic comes in and goes like, yeah, but how did it get there?
But I love how
And
the
at that point it's like, well, you see the explanation is shut up, it looks fucking cool.
so of course Buck breaks out of the pyramid, and we make any immigration joke you want to when he passes through the border from the dock into America, but okay, one of my favorite shots. Like I'm pretty sure if I had some say into the input of the thumbnail, I would probably have had the Buck roaring at the San Diego skyline. But I think uh, Rexes are tricky bitches to draw sometimes, and to do that shot would have been in a short amount of time would have been asking too much. I think, but I love what we got.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, to the reason when I laid out the plan for the thumbnail, I omitted the whole San Diego thing just so we could have this little
Surprise bit.
reveal joke. But also the fact it's like it's such a small bit, uh, like compared to like something in like Fallen Kingdom, where it's the huge chunk of the movie is in one place and a huge chunk of it is in another. But those chunks are still of equal size, so that would actually be a reason why I would have two different islands,
But
two different locations be like
but that's kind of
shown.
like
But
me
if
asking you to make a thumbnail of the lion scene in Fallen Kingdom when that's only like 10 seconds of the movie.
exactly,
Okay, but anyway, so we get a scene that is so great. Dinosaur in the neighborhood. You know, we love quoting nostalgia critics' old reviews every now and then. There's a hilarious bit where the T Rex breaks through and starts drinking out of a pool, and the kid's all, "There's a dinosaur in our backyard," and he's all,
but you think that's something? Just check out Susie down the street. It's the shot from the Transformers movie where one of the Autobots is coming from the pool.
but yeah,
Which, to the longest time, I assumed that that was Optimus Prime, but apparently that was Ironhide.
didn't we get into a rant about this on a live video once about if it was Optimus or Ironhide? I feel like we did.
I'll just concede it's probably Ironhide. It probably looked a lot.
But the
I think
music,
Optimus pretty much just like caused the entire pool to like just be sinking down
but
if he crashed into that.
but the music has this heavenly vibe like Optimus when he's coming out of the water. So I don't know. I think there's debates on forums still if that was Optimus or Ironhide. But anyway, um, so originally there's this scene where apparently like it's a pit bull, a boomer is barking at the Rex as he's drinking the water, and he decides to have a little snack too. And someone says, "You knew this was a."
Oh,
Hmm.
sorry. John was commenting at it. I looked away. I didn't see. Imagine seeing a Sega Lost World arcade where you're San Diego and had to. Actually, funny thing, John. There was actually a San Diego level in the arcade, but only in Japan. And even then, it's hard to get footage of that.
But yeah,
It's kind of lost media at that point. It would have actually been included in the Dreamcast port of the arcade, but
but we never
that
got
part
that.
never came.
But oh my
It's
god,
that's a fucking shame, man. Of all things, you'd think Sega would be like, I know this Dreamcast is a sinking ship, but fuck it, let's just put the Jurassic Lost World Jurassic Park into it.
well, we never got a proper port of the sit down Jurassic Park game either. But anyway,
All we have is just the Raw Thrills one.
yeah. So the But yeah, like I said though, apparently when the boy takes a picture of the T Rex, there's something about that that's kind of races the heart when he's waking up hearing the thumping and he looks out his window and you just see this T Rex turning around and looking at you. You're just like, and you gotta admit, the kid, to his credit, he stood still.
Even though it turns out staying still in front of a T Rex does like little to jack nothing.
Yeah, but still, point is though, I like how his first instinct is to tell his parents, "Hey guys, there's a dinosaur in the backyard," and they're thinking it's overactive
And of course, they
imagination.
think up until they realize, oh, I guess you need a new dog now.
But and like someone says, it's metal that Steven allowed for them to even kill a dog because even Independence Day couldn't have the heart to have a fireball take the dog. And Dante's Peak,
Boomer. Oh. Um,
we'll get another
we'll get you
boomer.
new Boomer.
And hell, like even Dante's Peak had them save the dog from the volcano. So, mm. But yeah, um, like I said, originally there was a deleted shot showing like the crew around the T Rex head through a shattered bedroom. Like I think he wouldn't have killed them. No, he was just come close to like giving him a big shot. But that would have been a good jump here. But I think Steven had reservations about showing that much jeopardy for children because he
Well,
would.
actually, it turned out that they tried it 3 times, but they couldn't get the effect to look good because the curtains kept draping over the T Rex head. So they were like, okay, you know what, let's just end it off with the camera flash and the roar and parents freaking out, and we'll just call it that.
It's good. Uh, and then oh my god, I love it when they save the baby and they say how are we gonna find the buck and Ian simply just
For all
says
the screams.
and oh god, everyone's just screaming left and right and Kathy Kennedy said it's so funny because they let members of the crew, like the behind the scenes crew, just be people running in the crowds. And she said, if you know people, you can pick them out. Like one guy I love pointing out is that glasses guy that tries to run into the bank named Unlucky Bastard, played by David Kep, the writer.
Well, actually, according to the Lego game, he's known as Unlucky Bystander
Well, I guess.
because it's a Lego game. You can't say no words.
But yeah, the unlucky fella. Um, what I love is how he overacts his death sounds. He goes from like, "Oh God, no, no, no," and then when he gets chomped on, he starts making these retching sounds like, like he's really laying it on thick. And we keep joking. I think that's the T Rex getting mad at him for his rewrite of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or whatever. Or that's for killing Eddie. I said I made a joke.
That,
If Rebirth ends
like,
up,
John says the glasses guy thought he was a blue Power Ranger
he
Billy.
did look like David Yost a little.
And the hair was a little bit too bang. Also, apparently, they've attempted so many times to try to get sneak in a little subtitles with among the crowd. There's a group of Asian people screaming out, "I like Tokyo! Look away from all this!"
And as James Rolfe pointed out in his interview, it's so funny that uh, the Lost World. I mean, Godzilla ripped off Jurassic Park when the Lost World pretty much did its own riff on Godzilla ahead of '98. So someone said, "Little did I know that would be more respectful to the King of the Monsters than what we got next."
And
But
it would be even especially funny given that when the Lost World premiered, it would be uh, preambled by a specific teaser of Godzilla giving essentially the middle finger to the Jurassic franchise, but just like one shot stomping the T Rex skeleton in a museum.
was that Rolf Saxon? Was that the Mission Impossible knife guy, William Dunlow, being the tour guide? Because he kind of looks like him.
Huh. I don't know. Point is, I think that to me would always be like one of the best teasers to a movie I've ever seen.
But wait, did you actually get to witness the teaser in person when you saw it, Lost World back then?
Oh heck no! I told you I saw Lost World when I got the tapes.
Same here.
So I think what it'd be the hype for Jurassic. And like I said, the tapes included a teaser for Jurassic Park 3, but without any actual footage of the dinosaurs. So I think it would probably be like the 2000.
Yes, yes, I remember that because that came on the Nutty Professor tape. Anyway,
But no, I just knew the teaser came before the Lost World because of course Roland would probably be the type of guy to kind of be a cheeky bastard to kind of one up the movie that's gonna be promoted before Lost World.
But yeah,
I see like, oh, you like dinosaurs? Well, our dinosaur is fucking huge.
but yeah. So what an impressive effect has the buck interacting with the bus, which Derica pointed out might be him thinking, "Oh shit, it's another one of those trailer thingies."
Yeah, that after the original trailer, the Rex family knocked over, they you would probably see that and think like, oh no, not this time. I'm gonna deal with this right here, right now. And that's all a practical shot. They built the bus to have an implode moment. They had stunt people knocking out, running across from the windows and all that. And then of course it eventually crashed into the video store with all the fake movies
There
that are
was
being promoted.
Robin Williams and Jack and the
I
Beanstalk.
I I I will pay whatever money there is to see them let Schwarzenegger do a King Lear movie.
I wonder if he. I bet my life for a sunrise I will never see. Okay, wrong Lear, but still. But anyway, like I said though, God, I keep telling Derica that the T Rex breaking the bus scene is pretty much like 10 years prior. The same thing would be recreated in Transformers with Bone Crusher ripping through that bus, and one of my favorite shots in Transformers.
And remember, this scene was not planned from the get go. This was an idea that Steven decided to come up with, but the effects guys still managed to make it look so good in Final Cut, to the point where they had to get like a Rex model at least at the spot when they were filming to at least get the lighting reference, like,
Mm-hmm.
as I said before, especially against the gas station, which I only just recently realized that of course they wanted to film like a T-Rex near a gas station because gas like fossil fuels and like, oh, there's an actual fossil living and breathing again running through it.
And I always laugh at.
Although very curious that managed decides to duck under when before we saw it just like gave the brick wall. It's like, fuck you, I could just walk over here where I want. It's like, oh nope, better duck my head. Don't want to bump like a stupid stormtrooper.
But yeah, you gotta admit though, I always thought that big '76 gas station logo looked like a pool ball. So it was so funny to see the T Rex knock it off the stand. Even Ian's all like, "Oh,"
Oh,
and they see the giant '76 roll by. Oh, and it's funny. It has the most funniest duck and cover line when the animal control and police think, "Okay, we got this rogue animal on the loose," but the minute they see it's a T Rex, they all decide, "Fuck this," and turn around.
I ain't getting paid enough for this. I get enough shit through. It's California. I don't have to put up with this.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like, uh, San Diego's best and brightest, everybody. But hey, well, they were smart enough to know not to be stupid enough to try to capture a T Rex with a dog catching car.
But eventually they did manage to wrangle the wild buck with the cries of its infant to the venture. But of course, Lila was stupid enough to try to still want to get the baby, even though it ended up getting him cornered by the adult who is saying to teaches Junior how to make his live kill, because like he's already got enough like fed from like leftovers from them. Now this is his time to get like his first actual kill in the hunt.
And I have no idea how they managed to give a "that's my boy" look to an animal without a human face, but you can just tell that's kind of the look of pride that Buck has as he sees Junior hop on Ludlow. And I'm pretty sure he died from that. It wouldn't appear again like Mason Berger in some horrible comic where he tries to marry Lex and open Jurassic Park again and messed up Tim's attempt to clean up his father's name. Yeah, that didn't happen at all.
I still can't believe that comic happened.
I still can't believe Lewis hasn't covered it because I keep saying, whenever a Jurassic movie comes out,
Dude, I always kept thinking, like, aside from like, why is there really there has been an Indiana Jones comic that that Linkara has covered? Not even a Jurassic Park. And you would think they would try to capitalize stuff, or maybe a Patreon would suggest it, but maybe most of the Patreons or his audience aren't even aware that there's a Jurassic Park
Well,
comic.
I would love to see him cover at least the tops comics, they made during the '90s that had like Ludlow in
Or
it.
or
Muldoon in it,
or
or
like the Return to Jurassic Park comics. You mean?
yeah, those comic books that were made like during the hype of the movie. But the dinosaurs, ooh, were they rump ugly? Like I'm a sucker for when they try to make them on model, but these guys are as far from on model as it gets. And oh my god, the
It's
megalos.
like, oh, the artists. Please do not tell me the artists like take reference shots from older dinosaur movies. Like, really, you have the most significant dinosaur movie. You think of all mediums, like, where even the video games, they got like were able to get like actual models of how to do dinosaurs good. Like, they even make them look good in the freaking 16-bit SNES or the 8-bit ones.
But
Even though the T-Rex of the menu looks derpy
goofy.
and looks like my original T-Rex designs.
Anyway, but oh my god, what was I saying on that note? But yeah, the the IDW Jurassic Park Redemption comic has Lolo survive that, which it kind of makes sense. The baby doesn't have proper teeth structure, and I guess the adult got tranked, so I guess Lolo had to just crawl away and hope for a rescue. But I don't know.
The boat would get like shipped off back to Isla so
They had a crew on it, so yeah.
god damn it. Even though we tried to like mock it, we just kind of cornered ourselves like, shit, they could actually do this. Hell, what do we know? A lot of fans keep insisting that freaking uh Stu Macher survived somehow the end of Scream.
Yeah. So anyway, anything can happen. But like I said, though, you got I do love the blood curdling, undignified squeal Ludlow makes when Buck breaks his leg. Like, leg for a leg, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Plus, he's for some reason pleading, "Wait, wait, 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 Tyner!" like, dude, you
You're
had your
talking to a
you
T-Rex.
had your chance when it was up there. But like I said, I just realized he broke the leg in the deleted scene, and in return, Papa broke the leg.
Again, probably to justify John's comment from earlier. They should have just like swallow their pride and actually finish filming that deleted scene. I don't care. It's like if it's gonna make the film too long. If it makes sense, you should just keep it.
But yeah,
Then,
oh,
as he puts it.
but oh my goodness,
But in the end, it all works out because the Buck gets tranked by Sarah Harding, which I didn't just realized that that should have been a moment where Roland actually makes his big return, where it turns out he hears all this uh, bedlam going off, and he comes back, and he actually gets an actual triumphant hunting moment for his trophy, rather
hmm.
than one where it gets spoiled by RJ having been killed. It's like, whew, I captured a T-Rex. Wait, RJ died? Oh, now I'm sad.
but
That shot, you should have been the one to give the shot. It's like, this one is for RJ.
I think Sarah is mentioned to be a good shootist in the novel, so I guess that's a chance for them to show that off. But that's probably all I can justify that.
And also actually thinking, it kind of makes sense for the one that was touted to want to be a pre- preservationist, this documentarian, actually make a hunter type shot to like signif- signifying that even those that want to protect nature has to learn to take a moment to be aggressive at this moment
It was either
for
that
the
or
sake of
get that or get shot by
humanity.
the cops.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, the T-Rex is tranked. It's off back on Isisort, and we're left with Richard Attenborough's speech as John Hammond. Step it aside and let nature run its course. Life will find a way, and we
and
get
oh
that
my
beautiful shot of
god,
dinosaurs in all their glory. You can tell the ILM guys are like, okay, guys, let's just go all in on this. This is our money shot.
and this is the only time you hear the traditional Jurassic Park bum 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 the triumphant end.
Which I get why they had to put it. It's a Jurassic Park movie. You had to end cap on that, but like I think even some people argue it's like they should have just had their original main theme playing at the
What
end.
they
Like
played
maybe like a recompose of it to make it a little bit more victorious.
and
Where
when they
it's a
actually,
theme for the Lost World. It should end on a theme for a Lost World.
but the soundtrack has a different version where it actually ends with the Brachiosaur track, as you see the wonders of dinosaur, that la da da ba 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 da ba ba, like I think that would have been felt a little too nostalgic. So I think ending with the more touristy, but
Oh
people
yeah,
know.
cause oh yeah, especially considering the fact that that rendition was the ending for the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think ending it with the Journey to the Island theme was a better call but because of that, I associate it more with the Sorna ending than I do the actual Journey to the Island.
It's a yeah, it's it's really telling that this movie was really big, especially considering the build up for it. I mean, it's as we said before, this is supposed to be a sequel to Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park was super big. So knowing that a new venture into Jurassic Park was coming, it was of course there was gonna be a build up to it, like tie-ins for like Burger King and all that would have. Like Mercedes was going all in. They were like the one fronting all the vehicles
Hell,
just to
the
get.
tape doesn't open up at Universal. Doesn't open up at anything. It opens up with a Mercedes ad, which I made her watch before we started ours because that's how I always watched mine.
But to be fair, that's not how my tape started. But sure, whatever floats your boat,
Yeah.
dude.
Falling in love again. What am I to do? How could I refuse? I can't help it.
I still mostly remember the Burger King commercial where they're showcasing the watches and all across the screen of the commercial is getting chomped by unseen dinosaur. And the guys inside are like trying to get away from like getting chomped into the nothing void.
I
And
have,
I for the longest time I had the Stegosaurus watch. I think I still have it, but it just does not work. It
I had
the
that one
batteries are
too.
long dead.
I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch or one of the General Mills had like a rubber dinosaur ball that you could like find in one of the boxes.
I distinctly remember seeing for my earliest memories are kind of vague and hazy, but I definitely remember the way they set up the toys. They were still going on
Oh my God,
a
KB
year
Toys.
after.
Hmm.
I actually mostly remember the Walmart setup they had. So this like around when Hercules is big, but I would always see toys for the lime green Lost World with the dopey T Rex in the logo with it. But there's like so many vehicles, so many guys, so many dinosaurs of shapes and sizes. But of course, the biggest push promotion was the video games. There were certainly a lot of Lost World video games, but one that was definitely backed heavily, mostly by Spielberg and the crew, was the PS1 and Sega Saturn one,
Yeah.
which touted like play as the Tyrannosaurus Rex after playing 20 levels of other characters and dinosaurs, but you get to play the T Rex.
Hell, I remember
You don't,
I
you don't
clicked on a
really finish
website.
as the T Rex.
I clicked on a website advertising that game, and in my computer lab class, and it says this time you're the T Rex. I didn't know that it had sounds. And then a big ass loud roar, like actually jumped me out of my seat listening to that ad. It says you're the T Rex. But oh my god.
I hope he didn't get in trouble for that one.
But yeah, we'll probably do a full game centric episode. But I still own the PS1 game, and I
I
still
have my copy too, but it's the special edition one where they added one little caveat say, okay, fine, just so we're not actually pulling a leg on you guys, you get to play as a T Rex for the first level, but then we'll down you get back down to the copy.
Michael Giacchino did the music, amazing score, and I also remember
To the
the
point where even to the point where like Steven helped get him in contact with an actual orchestral band, like almost kind of the same vein as John Williams, to actually do the music for him.
and on top of
So
that,
he came up with music, but he got the actual legit backing for it.
I think he got the Medal of Honor job off of that game.
Yep, he got the Medal of Honor, and then he would, and, and the rest is history. They'd come full circle to do the music for Jurassic World, and then later on, he would actually be the director for a Halloween special for Marvel.
And he's not going to be doing the music for the Fantastic Four going up against Rebirth this month. But I love that song.
So yeah,
I get hype
so,
every time I hear.
so you have
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Anyway, But so the other game that I remember so much, wasting so much quarters into, was the shoot 'em up that Sega made.
I think I've seen the arcade at some times, especially like in the older days where you would get to arcades to like theme parks like Cedar Point and such. But I think it mostly kind of got wayside once Raw Thrills came in. Oh, to be fair, I actually did remember actually playing the Jurassic Park 3 arcade game
Konami.
at at Disney Quest before that whole place got shut down. May it rest in peace.
But oh my god,
But
was
like any and all arcade games in that Disney Quest were set in free play mode because you already like paid money to be your admission to get in there. So like all the games were pretty much like free play to go on for.
what I remember though is that they've actually added more scenes from the book in the game, and they had these twin Carnotauruses that could camouflage like chameleons attack you. But I remember is that they have these circles in his mouth to shoot, and he make this funny little ow noise as he gets shot. It's pretty funny.
But yeah, I'm the most Jurassic Park arcade I would ever play would be the Raw Thrills one, where they're basically like wielding like multi-purpose cannons essentially.
They're supposed to be non-lethal, but you totally shatter that raptor. So I guess it's non-lethal the same way Batman's tumbler is non-lethal. Oh, but anyway, so there's a lot of hype, a lot of build-up. This is the follow-up, and everybody would gel with it, right?
Um, so this is kind of a weird thing. People didn't kind of, I guess, to be fair, in any time when you're doing sequel, there's always gonna be expectations. There's always gonna be people like, oh, I can't wait to experience the like wonder and thrill and amazing and like all the dangers that come for it. But they were doing a entirely different beast, so obviously their expectations were not going to be met, and a lot of people were going to be a little bit critical to it.
Gee, the way people acted.
And 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 also this they can't fall back on like the special effects. Like I feel like the special effects in the first one was the bigger crutch that was holding up the critics' higher response to it, but they've already seen it, so they feel like yeah, we already seen how pretty and real the dinosaurs can be, but now you gotta have to actually really get us invested in this.
So here's a few things from back then. Like Roger Ebert said that he gave the film three. He gave the first film 3 stars, but only gave Lost World 2, saying, "It can be said that the creatures in this film transcend any visible science or special effects and seem to walk the earth, but the same realism isn't brought to the human characters who are bound by plot conventions and action formulas." With Gene Siskel saying that I was disappointed as much as I was thrilled because The Lost World lacks a staple of Steven Spielberg's adventure films, exciting characters. Even in the original Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs, especially the human beings, had more distinct personalities than they have here. Save for superior special effects, The Lost World comes off as recycled material. But some say, like Kevin Thomas said, that there was improved character development over the original, saying, "It seems such a mistake in Jurassic Park to sideline early on its most interesting character, the brilliant, free-thinking, outspoken fan favorite Ian Malcolm with a broken leg, but in his most inspired stroke, The Lost World brings Malcolm back, faces him front and center." So I guess this guy was a Malcolm fan. So to have Malcolm in the front was like, "Yay, Ian!" hmm
But yeah, it's really weird to know that for the longest time, the Lost World was kind of seen as like the black sheep of the bunch, well, until the third one came. But even then, I think I think it was more harder on the second one for everyone because it's a Steven Spielberg movie. And you can't have a bad Steven Spielberg movie. He did Schindler's List for God's sakes. How is it that this guy can do Jurassic Park, the all the Indiana Jones movies, Temple of Doom notwithstanding, but people still love that one, and freaking Jaws, and then he does this sequel to the '93 movie Jurassic Park, and it's not as good or better. It's something wrong. I think at that point, I think people were starting to have sort of like, Spielberg, are you kind of losing steam a
But
little bit? Are you okay, dude?
even Spielberg has now said during production that he became increasingly disappointed, saying, "I beat myself up, growing more and more impatient with myself. It made me wishful about doing a talking picture because sometimes I got the feeling I was just making this big silent roar movie. I found myself saying, Is that all there is? It's not enough for me. Then he said he regretted how they knew that they were going to an island with dinosaurs, saying that my sequels aren't as good as my originals because I go on to every sequel I've made and I'm too confident. This movie made $1 gazillion, which justifies a sequel. So I come in like it's going to be a slam dunk, and I wound up making an inferior movie to the one before. Of course, I'm talking about Lost World and Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm.
But at least in recent times, there has been this resurgence, this renaissance, I guess, where people come around and realize, actually, you know what? This Lost World movie is actually kind of pretty awesome.
Well, a lot of the fans like it's kind of like the prequel reappraisal where people were very young watching it, and as they're now old enough to not voice their opinion on a public platform, it becomes more known. But like the first time I ever heard of anybody even hating this movie was Nostalgia Critic's joke review about it, and I thought, wait, people didn't like this one, and then even Chris Stuckman, he made a very great review about how he always grew up. He said it was different than the first one, but he always loved it. So he said he was surprised when the internet came around and he found out that not a lot of people actually liked The Lost World.
Not only him, but also Clayton Fiorte, who would later note when he decided to rewatch the movies for Jurassic World, his own dad, who he recalls like never finished or cared to finish the Lost World because it was just not good as the first. When came in, he saw Richard Attenborough talking to Ian Malcolm, and he asked Clayton, "Is this Jurassic Park?" And Clayton goes, "Oh, this is the Lost World." So his dad goes, "I don't remember any of this," and he decides to sit down and watch the movie, and then would continue to rewatch the movie over and over, say it's like that's the best one.
Mm-hmm. I watched my Jurassic Lost World tape to death, but anyway, here's another thing too. Here's a recent thing that says that some people in 2013 describe it as the worst thing Steven Spielberg has ever made. Others are saying that it feels like a work of Spielbergian protege. All the beats are in place, but it's an imitation. But this Brian Silman of Sci-Fi Wire said that the film as a rare example of a film adaptation that's better than its novel counterpart. He also loved the addition of Roland, but another character person said that the novel has more time to breathe. Well, with these majestic creatures, rather than there's a lot more running and screaming in the movies. But they said this that they reviewed that they love how the horror elements are writing. It might be Spielberg's nastiest film, a truly demented series of mostly wordless action and horror set pieces whose technical proficiency is matched only by their cruelty. I mean, man, Eddie's death must have really rattled critics.
And like he's a nice guy and all, but like to mark down the film for that, like
Oh no, this
I
one.
don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like so did y'all just forget that Mr. Arnold literally got his arm torn off and slapped on Dr. Sadler's
Oh,
shoulder,
now
and
you
you're not gonna bash me for that?
now you might agree with this critique though. Someone slash film negatively compared it to Spielberg's Temple of Doom, writing that Lost World transforms intelligent characters into bumbling idiots and increases the volume of the chaos while dialing back the mystery and all. But I'm going, uh, turning a smart character into a dumb character, that definitely applies to Sarah breaking her own rules, not even 5 seconds after laying it out.
Or Roland forgetting to keep his gun with him at all
But
times.
other than that,
Or
but like I'm saying though, you're right though. You're seeing a lot more appraisal of it. Where people are saying this is the good one. I mean,
especially when we rewatched it, we just realized that all the effect shots are pretty good. There's no effect shot at any point where we feel like, oh, that's kind of looks like it's kind of got some outlines that needs some patchwork or anything like that. Like never once did we feel like, oh, it looks like something out of a video game, but it's supposed to be real life. Oh, that's sad to see. Like even copies, I argue they're the most like cartoonish animated ones because they're the most vibrant and popping around, popping like their little tails and snouts all around, but they're still like seen and treated like they're actually surrounding all these actors.
oh
Like
my god.
even the freaking little girl is acting pretty well with all these things.
Oh, I gotta admit though, I love that part when they're all attacking Dieter, but then he chases them off, and they kind of just walk to the side, turn around, and make this cute little chirp. But I can't explain why they do it, but it's so damn cute every time that happens. But
that noise I always uh put together is like the iconic noise for like a wild, let loose Jurassic Park sound.
and then of course you say they play a little game of red light green light. Every time Dieter would walk and he would run and he would turn around and they would stop.
Those guys would be the winners of Squid Games, honestly.
But yeah, but like I said though, it's 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 gotten a bit of a reappraisal that there's people who are saying it's one of the better ones, especially when compared to its latter sequels. Well, other than a small crack at the Jurassic World movies, we actually ran into a 2 hour video released not even 24 hours ago by Ancient Realms that described why The Lost World is one of the more perfect sequels of the series.
Yeah, and I was up for it until he decided to smack talk my girl Blue, and it's like, okay, I'm taking my like and going home.
But still, the point is there are people who are
But
recognizing.
aside from that point, yeah, he did a pretty good play-by-play of that entire movie.
But now personal feelings on this movie, I think it's no doubt to say by the way we described about it for almost 3 hours at this point that we really like this thing.
Whew. So we pretty much have the time of actual director's cut Lost World there will never be. Sad to say. But to the point, the reason why we gushed so long is because we definitely have a bigger attachment to this movie. I feel that we do the first one. I know you gushed about the first one a lot, and I did too. But I feel like again, The Lost World was my entry into this franchise. If I didn't like decide to take the plunge with that, to be fair, in my for younger me, it could have been the fact that it was like the only available Jurassic Park movie at the time, and like, well, I want a Jurassic Park movie to see. Actually, no, actually, it's the truth is that I was actually not remembering. It was actually owned by my grandparents. It was in the basement to the house, and I decided to take a watch it. And after watching it, I decided to ask, "Is like, can I keep this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And so that was pretty much like the first Jurassic Park movie I would own.
It was the
To
first.
it was available to me. It was the first one available to me, and I decided to sit down and watch and enjoy it. And said that was be like when a new heard news of a new Jurassic Park movie comes, say, okay, I have this movie. I want to see the first one too. And the third one would be my first one to see in the live action.
It's wanted to show it, but yeah. Um, yes, I do have the Crichton editions plus the tie-in editions, but anyway, um, like I says, if I didn't have this Jurassic Park hat, it would be a Lost World hat. That's how big into this one I am. Like I used to, my one of my gifts for one of my I don't know if it was birthday or Easter, but my brother got me the original Lost World tape with the um hologram, the holographic T Rex bursting through the title sequence thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one memory I always remember vividly is when, as I was watching it, and Mom was in the background doing something. She came in at the point when the T Rex lifted Eddie right out of the car, and she just gasped because it looked so real to see a guy just get pulled out of it. And I don't even think she reacted to the whole, you know, ripping. Because but she definitely went like a big because she was just doing something. She just in time to see his leg get chopped and he gets pulled out, and just going like, "Good God, that guy got lifted."
But she was right to react that way because that was an actual shot. That was an actual person that was lifted. They actually practiced handling that, especially with the bird character getting lifted up by a yarn. That was an actual T Rex that got him.
So yeah, um,
So her reaction was very valid.
but yeah, like I said though, I didn't mind the cruelty or brutality as the reviews put it because it made it feel like, oh, I'm watching a grown up movie, and this is before seeing R rated stuff like Alien and Predator. But
It's basically the golden rule of a sequel is that of course it's gonna get hit harder in darker places. Like again, thinking back that Empire did get scrutinized when it initially came out because it's like, oh no, why are heroes going through the ring? It's like, dude, you have to put the if you're up in the ante for a sequel, you have to up the ante of the danger. Otherwise, it's basically just a cakewalk to these guys.
Well, I mean, look at
Huh,
Spider.
that's huh. I guess that's kind of why Steven doesn't consider Indiana Jones uh follow-ups as like sequels. They kind of almost at most of the points they have the same level of danger and like adventure and thrills to them. There's nothing that feels like a one up to a danger level where it's like, oh my god, Indiana Jones is really, really, really gonna buy it. It's like, no, he's pretty much in the same amount of danger as he usually is.
But oh my gosh, um, but yeah, like I said, it's the tape I watched to death. I mean, it also had the teaser at the very end for Jurassic Park: The Ride, and that forever fueled my lifelong ambition to go and ride that thing one day. And
Which you successfully did, and all it took was for the ride to die out.
yeah, I'm right now wearing the Jurassic Park: The Ride Countdown to Extinction shirt from my trip there.
One of your prized possessions. And it's funny enough, of course, they would advertise it because they would have like the baby animatronic Stegosaurus as part of the ride, along with other dinosaurs, and they would have Close Encounters of the T-Rex and the Velociraptors.
To the waterfall,
Versus,
just
like,
like the people did. But yeah,
also, quick word: if you ever revisit for the park, I suggest that in order you should ride the Velocicoaster first before the river ride, because the end of the Velocicoaster actually hints at uh something going wrong with the river ride, which would have Owen like having to get escorted over to help deal with that too. So just a little word of advice for
okay,
continuity if you want.
but yeah. And then, oh my god! But like I said, though, I love the characters. The dinosaurs look amazing. They looked real to me, and that was like that and the SNES Jurassic Park cartridge were my most prized Jurassic Park possessions ever. That tape and
I think one of my I think one of my earliest Jurassic Park possessions was I think that it was a Matchbox. I think Matchbox had the rights to do the vehicles. They had basically the Jurassic Park green Mercedes vehicles and like the trailers, but mostly it was like the four wheeler with like the little capture cage and all that.
I had a Matchbox playset that had a truck that you pushed the lid down and the crane would come out to capture a Parasaurolophus. But it was I also had a set that had a Velociraptor and the Matchbox was you're right. That was got the toys for. I mean, right now we got to go with Mattel, but back then, the Kenner line, the Lost World was the best the line ever got because Hasbro certainly dropped the ball when it came to three. Ugh.
I kind of still like the toys I got from it, but
No, no, but
then
then
again, I didn't realize how good we had it back then.
and
So
then oh my god, the Jurassic World Hasbro toys are just rump ugly. Like, nah.
I had to squint a little bit when I saw the blue. I was like, I'm pretty sure she had a silver coat of color along with a blue streak, but I, I think that's a blue streak on her. I squinted and hold it to light, but yeah, that was bad.
Hey, but thank goodness for Mattel. They actually are doing a bang up job on these guys. In fact, their Rebirth toys look amazing.
I'm still waiting for Walmart to stock on the Rebirth. They're just been mostly clearancing the Chaos Theory toys to
mhm.
like it was so close. I should have gotten that Spinosaurus when I had a chance, but it's sold out. But oh well.
There's a new Spinosaurus coming out from Hammond Collection on Target, but those things end up on Amazon, so I had to keep an eye on there. Usually for retail.
Oh
So
my god. Oh my god. I have to get it. I have to get it. I have to get it.
and
So
that's a good detour actually, because we come to the end of our tour of the Lost World.
at least everything went to plan, even though we had to take a detour to San Diego. But yeah, thank you for joining us on this unintentional detour. We hope you'll join us back on Isocerna, where with the new group as we bring Dr. Grant back to face new terrors in Jurassic Park 3.
So this is John the Cat 79 signing off, along with my co-host Erica, aka Dark Neon.
Remember, if we keep step back, let nature run its course, life find a way.
All right then, catch you at the next.